this meeting to order. Everyone please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Do we have lights out over here? Are there lights out for a reason?
It feels dim.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's something.
Something's not turned on. There it is.
Let there be light. Thank you, Mary Ann.
Shed some light on this. All right. It's the meeting of the City of Bradenton Community Redevelopment Agency for Thursday, May 25th, 2023. At this time, we will have citizen comments for items not on the agenda. We will start with Bill Sanders.
Good morning, Bill Sanders, 2502 Riverside Drive. In 2018, when I ran for office for the council, I was real concerned about our CRA and how it was being operated. It was, the meetings were ran by the mayor and he wasn't a board member, so that got changed. We had one guy that was administrator and a economic development guy. We don't have an economic development department. We never have. We've never received funding from the city for economic development, period, that I can find record of. The department that he was running was a CRA department, which comes from the community tax TIF money. So there was a lot of issues with historical records. And then you had one guy that was controlling two functions that's supposed to be separated. So we fixed that. And now I'm concerned it may be headed back in that direction, as yesterday's council meeting transferred $6 million from the CRA to the coffers of the city government. And I don't think it's without oversight. It's not put in restrictive funds, and it doesn't have different account numbers for tracking. So I've asked for Lance to opine on that and give me information and the community, because we do need to track it.
I've got it. Just hold on a second.
There you go. CRA's legislative intent is basically, I won't read the whole thing, is eradication of slum and blight. That's the primary goal. That's basically, if you don't do that, you shouldn't be doing other stuff, period. The plan that's put out there, I'll say everything, that's what you've got to do. If you don't follow the plan, you violated the state statute of 163. And you cannot do things that's not in the plan. So you'd have to amend the plan. We did that for community policing. Even if allowed by statute, if it's not in the plan, you can't do it. Other expenses, incremental revenues, can't pay for board members, et cetera, et cetera.
Sir, can you leave those up there give us at least a chance to read them? Because you're just putting them on there and taking them away and making your comments.
Okay, well, if you're gonna give
put it
me
back in.
time,
No, just, I mean.
okay, because you got a clock
It was
running
3
here,
minutes
so
ago.
that's always been a problem. Let's address that, please.
No.
Can we address that?
On your 3 minutes, yeah.
So when I get through and this clock gets to 0, it doesn't matter, does it? That's another problem we have.
As long as you're gonna put those into the record. I'll give you 15 more seconds, as long as you're gonna put those into the record.
I'll be glad to put these into the record. But you know what? These are items that all you should be trained on.
We are.
We are.
You are?
It's not just about us, it's about
Yes.
everybody, sir. Everybody's
Okay.
got a chance. You're putting all this stuff out there on us.
I know, because you restrict citizens' comments to 2 or 3 minutes, especially me. And then when I sit down, you say I'm not telling the truth.
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
No, I'm giving you extra 30 seconds. When your timer goes out, you'll get an extra 30 seconds, because we debated this for about 30 seconds. So you have
You've
30
got
seconds.
30 seconds.
Well, I thank you your assistant, Chairman, right? Or is that you? I didn't know why
You want to talk about that for your 30 seconds? Go right ahead.
Time out my 30 seconds. Gotta go. In a CRA, there's no carryover. So when I left January 3rd of this year, there was no direct expenditures identified for this $6 million. So you moved it over to the city coffers. To me, it's a violation of the CRA Statute 163. It needs to be corrected. It needs to be put in restricted accounts that can be tracked and followed. If not, and here's the state law that you really need to be aware of: open meetings, ethics conflicts, and Floridans have 4 ways now to file complaints. I'm asking you to behave and do this the right way. If not, you're risking this $6 million a year annually from the taxpayers, that it can be challenged. And our state legislature is just waiting to find out if we do that.
Thank you, sir.
They would love to have that money back.
Thank you, sir. Next is Kenny Wooten. My apologies.
All right, Keenan Wooten here. Kind of hard to come behind that. Yeah, but things are happening fast here. I attended a CCRA advisory committee meeting, and I left kind of frustrated. I don't see any numbers. I don't see any expenditures. I just see a lot of talking around the campfire. A lot of citizens there were upset, angry. They might not have all the documents that this last citizen just had, but they're starting to talk about where's the money going. Are we doing anything in our neighborhood? And we're starting to hear a lot of things, and it's starting to be a little bit concerning. Our CRA agency, we've had a rough time. I've been around. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm just a spokesman. I just hear stuff in the community, and I'm gravely concerned about the expenditures. We need to start seeing where the money is going. We need to start being a little bit more transparent in the neighborhood. I've seen the ugly days. I've seen the dark days. Everything that has been said, some of that stuff is true. I was sitting right and watching it. I didn't understand it much, but I was sitting around looking at it. We sit around, I'm fiscally conservative, all that stuff, but I need to see it a little bit more. Our CCRA advisory committee, there needs to be a representative there. A council there. Because it got it was a lot of talk last time that I attended, and I attended the last meeting. But I think we have opportunity to try to make these things right. But word is getting around, especially in my neighborhood. Where's this going? Where's that money going? Where's this? And a lot of people, they don't understand it. They don't know statute. They don't know this. They don't know that. But they're starting to talk. And I'm maybe one of the younger representatives around the campfire, but I'm bringing it to your attention. And that's where we need to start focusing. We know there's money there. We know there's programs out there. We know that. But a little bit more transparency on the front end will save us the public perception on the back end. Okay? I attend meetings. I try my best to get to those advisory committee meetings. But we want a little bit more teeth in that. We want a little bit more transparency of where money's going, where is it going, is it being spent in the community? What's the next steps? What's the plans? We have people in here, they have requests, and I'm just so glad that something is happening. But we can always do a little bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Thomas Satcher. Oh, sir.
Hi. Firstly, I want to express my gratitude for this opportunity and my admiration for the efforts that have been made to ensure that public art remains a vital component in our community's identity. Allison Newsom is not just an artist, she's an emissary of community, spirit, and local heritage. While others may see her decision to include local artists in manufacturing as a point of controversy, I think we should instead view it as an emblem to her commitment to our community. Rather than outsourcing talent and resources, she's chosen to invest in our local economy, our local creatives, including myself, and our shared future. I'm here to, in my capacity as an artist, I bring to the table over 15 years of experience, fortified by a bachelor's degree in fine arts from the University of Georgia and a master's degree from the Savannah College of Art and Design. Allison's project has graciously offered me a platform to utilize my experience and passion. My specialization in bronze work finds its expression in Allison's proposal, thus ensuring a comprehensive fusion of different styles and techniques serves as a tangible testament to the project's inclusivity and commitment to diversity. Allison's proposal represents a mosaic of local artistry and craftsmanship. It's a testament to Allison's vision for Mineral Springs Park is about more than aesthetics. It's about promoting a sense of belonging and pride in our local history via local artists and craftspeople. It's about weaving a story of our community, our heritage, and our future.
Mr. Chairman, I'm so sorry, pardon the interruption. I believe this is an agenda item that we are going to be addressing today.
Okay.
And normally citizen comments are items that are of general information or not on a specific agenda item.
All right.
So,
We'll give you the opportunity to
Yeah.
speak on it. You filled out the form that says not on agenda, so that's why
Okay.
I thought you were talking about other.
Oh,
public
it would
art
be later
advisory.
on, not right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, so if you don't mind coming up and continuing that,
Okay.
that'd be great.
I
'cause
don't
it'll
have
be-
any context.
It'll be more germane to the,
Sorry.
yeah, it'll be germane
it
to
took
the
me a while
topic
to
at hand.
figure out,
My bad. Gotcha.
and I apologize for interrupting, but we do have a protocol that we
perfect.
follow.
Perfect.
If you don't mind,
Okay, yeah, that works.
I'll be back and picking up right there.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm so close to done.
Oh, okay.
Long story short is Allison Newsom's project is amazing, and you should go with it for the art project for Mineral Springs.
Thanks.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right. Now, the next on the agenda is consent agenda. Take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
I'll second it. And will we have discussion after we make this? I
If
second
there's a
it?
second,
If there's a
Okay.
second.
now there's discussion,
Yes,
and then we'll have public comment.
okay. I'll second it.
That's what, pardon me, public comment and then discussion.
Okay.
So, let's see. The only one with public comments on the agenda, consent agenda, is Bill Sanders. So, Mr. Sanders, I apologize if I lost my bearing there for a moment. It wasn't a personal back and forth with you and me. It was just, you know the protocol, again, and this is a fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me situation. So, I assure you that won't happen again.
Well, I believe the public has a First Amendment right to speak without being curtailed,
And I appreciate that.
especially when there's taxpayer money on the line,
I certainly appreciate that. And
okay?
also,
So
and
we pay the taxes, you pay the taxes, but just because the board says it's okay does not mean it's okay. See, that there's this theory out there.
Chairman, point of order.
Point of order? Wait a minute, how do you have a
Order.
point of order on a
Point of order.
A policy.
policy?
There is a policy that this board has adopted that gives people 3 minutes to speak to ensure that everyone that attends the meeting has the same 3 minutes and the same opportunity.
Well, that's
It's
not-
been that way since you were on this board.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, sir, it has been.
Well,
And-
that's for another argument, Mrs. Barnaby.
I'm not arguing, I'm stating fact.
No, I know.
Barbie, thank you.
You are
Mr.
arguing
Sanders.
with, there's also a policy
Mr.
that you
Sanders.
don't argue with
Do you have
citizens.
3 minutes?
Ms.
Do you
Barber.
want to take your 3 minutes?
So I don't like being scolded, yes, I'd like to, I don't really care about the.
I don't like being lied about and lied to, sir.
Ms. Barnaby, thank you. Mr. Sanders, I'm going to restart your clock. Please go with.
Can I
No, you
address
cannot,
that
sir.
comment?
No, sir.
So I can't address that comment
No, sir, you will address it after.
because she just called me a liar,
Sir,
All right.
and that is a defamation.
sir, please start your 3 minutes now. Ms. Barnaby, my apologies.
Ms. Barnaby, another time. On the consent agenda, there are 3 items to move money from the CRA to the city coffers. It's being moved without restrictions. It's being moved without tracking mechanisms. And it was alleged in yesterday's council meeting that it was due to an audit, external audit, that said it had to be that way. Can I please have that external audit? As of 3 or 4 months ago, I did not witness any external audit that said that, period. I would like to have that, the public would like to have that, and put it into the record that that's why you're doing it, but there's probably more to the audit. The audit probably used some tracking stuff, but if not, I can't question it because I don't have it. I'd like to have that as a public record. So when it comes to that, CRA has been used for multiple things that is not in the plan. We just approved a couple $100,000 for a restaurant
That's
that we
not
didn't have a
this
plan.
agenda item.
Excuse me?
That is not part of this agenda item.
The budget item is, all this, that $6 million includes everything. Tell me something it excludes. 6 million is the entire budget of the CRA. Is the intent of this board to dissolve the CRA? Because Ms. Barnaby ran off, a director, said she would be fired after November, and
I absolutely categorically deny that, and that was never said by this mouth.
yes, it was, because I
No,
heard
sir.
you.
Mr. Sanders,
Sir.
again,
All right.
we're not going to argue
Yeah,
this.
that's right. The council has a conduct of rules that I was always preached for 4 years that should not do what she is just doing. You don't just disparage your citizens for comments, and that was witnessed by other people. So, that is, you're clearly off base. You clearly don't want me to speak, and I am
I'll give
here.
you more time to speak.
I am here to do that so the public knows what I know, which is an awful lot of information. I'm asking this board, you've already moved it from yesterday, you actually got it in reverse. The board should have approved to move it to the council, and then the council approved moving it. It was no recommendation from the board. So these things are put on consent agenda, which is closed door, behind closed doors, and somebody goes around to each person telling them how to vote. That's vote rigging. You can't prove it, but you come in here with everything that's already predetermined on a consent agenda. I approve it all. That is not transparent. I would like for that to stop. You don't put $6 million of items on a consent agenda.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Mignon, if you could please note that Mr. Sanders asked for a public records copy of the audit that was referred to by him and by Mr. Perry yesterday. Did you have someone that you wanted to speak to regarding that situation today?
If Lance would want to come up and speak to it.
Morning, Chairman and Board. I was glad to see Mr. Perry speak about this yesterday and thought he did a very, very, very good job explaining it. Every year we have a financial audit. They go through our books, they go through the CRA books, and they make sure that we're doing things the right way in accordance to GFOA, in accordance to state and federal standards. Their recommendation was we have contributions from the CRA to fund things like sidewalks and parks and community policing and so forth. we were funding that through the CRA for a certain way as far as a contribution from the CRA to the city. So essentially, the city pays first, the CRA then refunds or basically gives the city those funds to be able to do that. What the auditor suggested and recommended was that we, instead of doing the contribution, that we do it as an intergovernmental transfer. It was an administrative task. It was a net zero operation on the budget adjustments. There was nothing additional. There was nothing less. It literally was an administrative adjustment, plain and simple. So I will be happy to answer any questions.
At this point, we'll have comments on the agenda from the council.
On the
My
consent agenda?
question will be, there's, Mr. Sanders made a statement that now basically everything is in the city coffers and it's all in one lump sum. Can you please explain how that is absolutely not the case?
That is not the case. The CRA has its own budget. The city has its own budget. The CRA has funds available to them to be able to do what they need to do with anything that's in any of the CRA plans, and the city has nothing to do with that. Everything's approved by the board and brought to the administrator and director ahead of time. So the city funds, the CRA funds are completely two different things. And the CRA funds are not in the city funds at all.
And as far as yesterday's change with the resolutions, that basically created cost centers, more or less.
Essentially, what it did was, instead of it doing as a CRA contribution, it was an intergovernmental transfer, again, by the advice of our auditors. It's simply administrative. Nothing changed.
Thank you.
Is there any way that we can provide a citizen that information in print? I mean, it's all public.
Yeah, everything is public record. There's nothing that we do that's hidden. Our ACFR is available to the public. The budget adjustment items are available to the public. There's
So
nothing.
with that information being available, I think the request was made to have that information in print by the citizens. So if we could compile that, is that possible?
A records request is something that we actually have as a record. We don't create a record for a citizen, but again, the ACFR is available. The audit, there are pieces in the audit that are protected, but essentially, if we can provide any information that proves that the auditors provided this recommendation.
So that could
Unfortunately, the misstatements that Mr. Sanders is making are completely incorrect.
So that citizen can request the records, and it's simple as that.
If they exist,
Don't
correct.
have to come and request the records from us, but go through the proper channels.
Yep.
I just,
And I don't, as of right now, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but as of right now, I don't have a request from Mr. Sanders.
well, as a point of order, he did make the request here in public to us.
Right.
That's why I directed Mr. Mignon, who would be the one that would put in the system.
Yep.
Just.
Happy to work with him and provide what he needs. Yep.
Well, thank you, because it's very disconcerting that we have someone that chooses to use their First Amendment right to mislead the public, and it seems to be consistent, and so I appreciate you coming and setting the record straight.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Mignon, do you have any questions for him or anything, or you good?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. What's next on the agenda?
Oh,
We need
gotta
to
vote.
Oh, sorry.
We have to
You're right.
vote on
My
the
fault.
consent agenda.
So easy. All right, any more comments on consent agenda in general?
I was just going to make the point that I appreciate any concerns about transparency. The point of the consent agenda is to save people's time, and I just thought we could reassure everyone that I spent much time graciously given to me by Mr. Williams, by Mr. Mignon, trying to make sure that I 100% understood what we were doing at yesterday's meeting and today's with these consent agenda items, so they're not operating in a bubble. And when they're put on consent agenda, that means we have undertaken with staff to have meetings so that we didn't have to sit here and waste public's time, not mine. My time is the public's, but the people that have attended the meeting. So I'm sorry to belabor the point, but I just wanted to reassure again that we are doing the due diligence. We are undertaking to understand exactly where dollars are going and how they're being spent.
And furthermore, that said, we have a legal team who is not going to allow us to put these things forth to the public without it being proper and above board and within statute.
And I'd just like to also make a comment that when we have those discussions with staff, so that we have an understanding, it is not them telling us how to vote. It's giving us the facts so that we are equipped to vote. So there's no behind closed doors vote wrangling. And as you said, you can't prove it, but I just want to go on record stating that I do all I best to stay within the realms of the law in every aspect of my life. When we have those discussions with staff, it's basically facts that we need to make an intelligent decision. But I do understand, how publicly or the optics may look. I can't change that.
Yeah, I was just going to add on that. The consent agenda is something that's used by almost every local government in this state. If you go to a county commission meeting, they may have 80 items on their consent agenda. There's only so much time in these working meetings for the board, and so it's intended to be able to get through administrative type items in a timely manner. So.
Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, just one other thing. I believe now, since both you and Ms. Moore did attend CRA training, every member of this board has taken CRA training.
Yes. It was a lot of fun.
And we passed.
And we passed.
And not to belabor this too much more, but there's also, there is someone that has offered to come and talk about some of the concerns that are being expressed and how those are guidelines for us and how we want to make sure that we can do what's right for each of the CRAs and not be so, those are guidelines for us. There are statutes, absolutely, but some of what he's putting up there are guidelines. And so anyhow, just want to say that they had contacted me again if anybody is interested in a free, they're consultants, and they actually work with the FRA conference and do things there. So they've offered to come here as well.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Any more comments? Okay. Take a vote to pass the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Next on the agenda, please.
Good morning. Chris Mignon, Acting Executive Director for the CRA. So what we have here is in last fiscal year we had obtained the assistance of Business Flair to do a revitalization report on the 9th Corridor Avenue. The 9th Corridor Avenue is this study is unique because it touches each CRA district. So on November 3rd of 2022, we did have an outreach meeting. Business Flair was there. They did a presentation there and got community input. Based on that community input, they put together, and their own research, they put together a report, the concepts of the revitalization of the 9th Avenue corridor, and that everybody had received a copy of that report. And then right now they are here to make a presentation. Mr. Kevin Crowder is here to make a presentation in regards to the next steps to move that revitalization along. So I'm happy to introduce him, and let me put up his presentation here.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning. Nice to see you all. Nice to be back here. As Chris said, we had a very well-attended and good participation in a meeting in early November talking about the 9th Avenue corridor as we put those concepts together. And apologize again, I wasn't able to be here at your March meeting, but Pete was able to go over the more in-depth the details of those recommendations. We'll touch on them. We really want to talk about, okay, what do you take these concepts and how do you do the next things? How do you start seeing things happening there in the corridor? So I want to walk you through some of our thoughts there and what some of those next steps and how hopefully we can keep helping you there and with other things that you need here in the CRA. So just again, just a little recap. I'll touch on some of these things. Is, you know, our objectives here in the CRA is obviously slum and blight clearance is the primary goal of a CRA. But in order to do that, you know, we want to build wealth in the community. You know, supporting your local entrepreneurs and creating those entrepreneurial and creative opportunities in your CRA is how you can do that. And obviously, enhancing your tax base, bringing the investments that you need to do so that you can continue to focus on other items that enhance your quality of life, or all things that ultimately you're working through your CRA and your CRA plan to accomplish. And in doing these, there's things we want to look at in the short term, the midterm, and the long term. You know, we want to look at opportunities so you can have those quick wins, so that you're able to create that credibility or build that credibility where people see that things are happening, that it's not all just planning and planning and planning. But there are things that are going to take longer. And obviously, when you're talking about significant investments, those are things that are going to take longer. But there are things you can do in the meantime. I think we've kind of looked at all of those different opportunities as we've looked at the corridor, and as you saw in the overall concept. Just wanted to touch a little bit back on sort of the key things to our approach. And so when we look at economic development, when we look at redevelopment and revitalization, there's a lot of tactics you can get into and things and actions that you're going to take. But kind of the umbrella we kind of think about is when we do, and you'll see a slide later where I talk about this again, but I'll go ahead and say it here. When you're doing economic development, when you're doing revitalization, at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're creating a place that people want to be. It's where they want to live, it's where they want to work, where they want to invest, open a business, renovate a building, build a new building, raise their kids, all of those different things. You want that's the sort of place. And so before you get into the detailed actions to do that, there's three things that connect people to the place and make it a place that they want to be. And there's been a lot of research on this and all different types of communities around the country. And consistently, the three things are the aesthetics, how it looks. I mean, that's that first thing that people are, if you think about even when you're going to go to a restaurant, you might do your due diligence. You look at Yelp, you look at reviews. But when you get there, if the aesthetic's not there, you might figure out you want to go somewhere else. And so that's just one of the most important things. The second one are your social offerings, the activities, the opportunity for people to engage with one another. And where are those spaces? Do you have activated public spaces? Do you have third places? The places where people want to be with other people if they're not at home and they're not at work. And so creating that sort of engagement is another thing that connects people to a place. And the third is how open and welcoming a community is. And that's everything from the experience you get when you first come into a town and you sit down at the diner for breakfast. How are you welcomed and what's that feeling? All the way to the experience you have when you go to pull a building permit. So those three things kind of help guide us to be able to do then the sort of hands dirty on the groundwork of actually doing economic development and redevelopment. So I always like to kind of introduce that because there's a lot of things that relate to that in both the hats you wear here on the CRA board, with the city council, all of those different things that really help set that tone that people will respond to. You know, obviously when we talk about corridor revitalization, the aesthetics becomes a really important piece there. And then when sort of to summarize, when we looked at this corridor, kind of summarizing what our recommendations are, we sort of work in these sort of look at these 5 areas when we start trying to say, okay, what can we do? What are things that we can really get consensus around? You know, there'll always be little things that maybe people disagree with in your tactics and approaches, but from, call it a vision, call it an elevator speech for a plan, we try to find these things. And what we came up with here is, you know, you've got a historical charm that can be preserved and brought back out. You know, the investments, your aesthetics, public property, your identity, And you'll see a slide in a minute where we talk about how important identity is in fitting into the overall success of an area. Enhancing your residential areas, enhancing your properties, your public realm, your private properties, and those opportunities for those enhancements. Capitalizing on partnerships and the different types of partnerships you have or additional ones that you can create to get here. Because you're not going to be able to do this all by yourself also. You know, I mean, just when we talk about a CRA and building a tax base and increment, that requires partnership with the private sector who are making those investments. Not necessarily a public-private partnership, but, you know, just general partnership working with those who are looking to improve the area. And then exposing, you know, you've got cultural significance, you've got opportunity, you've got stories to be told. The expose to us is the most important piece here, because every community has stories that people don't know. But it's already here, and when you start telling those stories, people start connecting to it. I tell you, almost every one of our best or biggest successes in this field have come back to that expose of what's already in a community. Now, I've got lots of stories that sometimes I tell in that I won't get into those here, but looking for that and finding those things, again, that connects back to that investment you make in your identity and brand. It connects back to how you find those entrepreneurs that find a connection and a reason that they're going to want to be here, but maybe they didn't know until they heard that story. Just another thing, you know, when we started, and part of that expose, and Pete, and I think board member Coachman had guided Pete on some places to look and had found an old historic inventory of businesses from this neighborhood. So we started thinking, you know, now not all of these businesses are businesses that we're going to bring back today. We're not going to bring back a livery stable. But if again, coming back to that sense of place and that place for people, we thought, okay, what are all of these places? And we found you have places to stay, places that meet people's needs, places where people are entertained, places to gather, places for food, places for community. So what do those types of places look like in today's context, in today's uses? And that's what you'll see when we start thinking about our targets. Rooming house, well, today that's a place for people to stay, you know, housing, whether it's hotel or residential, those types of things. So it gives us sort of what's our initial target of the types of businesses we want to go into next and evaluate the feasibility and how do you attract them in here. When we talk about retail, I learned this from a broker in Southeast Florida. When you think about retail and restaurants and the things you want, you know, retail, you as a city, you as a CRA board, you don't get to pick your retail. Retail picks its cities and it picks where it wants to go. And if you're not getting picked for what you want, such as something here, what we come in then is let's figure out why you're not getting picked, and then what you as a board can realistically do to improve your opportunity to get picked, and then go find those folks who can connect to it. And that's when we get to what are the next things to do. That's part of that work. So just again in the concept, some of the focus areas, we want to look at legacy businesses and who's already here, because that's again some of those stories. You may find stories that even you didn't know. We find that in every city. You know, just the public realm, the aesthetics, that sense of open and welcoming, you know, it being walkable and activating your public spaces, your place brand. When we talk about identity and brand, now there's a marketing component to that, and I know at FRA and with the 2019 amendments to 163, there's been talk about what you can and can't do on marketing. We had this discussion at the North Miami board meeting on Tuesday night. But we're not talking about marketing. We're talking about place brand, because every place has a brand already, and you have how you're thought of in the mind of your customers and your constituents and your prospects. So it's coming back really from that perspective of enhancing that place brand as a place that people are going to want to do business, to visit, to live, to invest. In your aesthetic, as I mentioned, your quick wins, finding those third places, those places that people are going to gravitate to one another when they want to be out in public and out with people. I just saw this in another city. And I'm not going to name the city, but as I went around and we were looking at opportunities, I thought, I'm not seeing any gathering spaces. I'm not seeing places for people just to get together. I'm not seeing even the parks or the craft breweries or the coffee shops. And then I found them. And they were all, the community and kids, they were all hanging out in the back of their pickup trucks in the parking lot of Big Lots. because there was no other option, but they still sought each other out and wanted to come together and find that opportunity to engage with people. So that becomes an opportunity to really understand what can we do within the physical space to create those sort of opportunities that then leads to business opportunities and people seeing that there is a reason that they want to be here and invest. The other thing that I did, these two pictures that I put on here came from a different slide, but just remember that, you know, no community and no place is static. It doesn't stay in the same place. So communities are either improving or they're declining all of the time. And so you're here and focus on, you want to find those ways that you can keep improving. And again, those quick wins help you do that and be part of that, telling the story and building that credibility of the program that you have here. Again, I already mentioned this, that place, you know, to live, to work, to invest. You can think of probably 100 things that you could put on this list. Back to the identity and brand. At the end of the day, success, and we see this in success with communities. We see this in success with companies. If you think about something like Airbnb and Uber, they had to find that economic and market feasibility. They had to have that regulatory efficiency, and we saw that go out of whack, like with Uber at the airports trying to deal with that. We see that with Airbnb with short-term rentals. And you got to have that identity and brand that people want to use those services. Disney's a good example of that. And again, the regulatory efficiency is kind of out of whack right now with Disney and the state. But places also, you find that balance, and you have a unique balance of those three things, and it's different than any other community. But finding that balance is how you start finding success. And this is where, when we say identity and brand, that's the context of where we're thinking about it. Again, is where does it fit in into how it supports these other two items. And so how do we see your opportunity to move forward in your next steps for this? And I'll walk you through a few of these. One that we put down here is just a board training. And this is not your FRA board training. This is not your let's stay consistent and compliant with 163. We can do that. I mean, we did that actually on Tuesday night in North Miami. We've come out with actually a consistency review that looks at a CRA plan. We did their plan update. And that was approved on Tuesday. And as part of that, because of a lot of questions we get about the 2019 amendment, and actually not just on marketing, but on some other things, we went through and did a full looking at the Chapter 163 powers, the finding that was approved, what you can use TIF for, and all of those. This is more not. I mean, we can help you with that if you want to, but this is more okay. How do we make the investment happen? How do we make the revitalization happen? What are those tools and actions and key things we want to do? It's based on several years ago we did the Florida League of Cities University Economic Development class, and it's really it's that same sort of curriculum. And what it does is it sort of blends economic development with redevelopment, which are related. They're sort of overlapping circles with some consistent things, but to get to implementation and how you can best use your resources for, again, some of those quick wins and for maximum benefit for the lowest investment. The next one is sort of feasibility analysis and looking at the regulatory efficiency. Though two of those three circles I showed you, one of those is looking at entrepreneurs and small business. What are those opportunities? What do they need? What are the obstacles to them being able to or thinking about considering this area as a place to do business? Do you have hidden entrepreneurs just behind front doors in your community that you just don't know are there but are doing things? Are there opportunities for concepts like side hustle to main hustle, just even within the community? Or do you have people who have businesses elsewhere who might not realize maybe there is an opportunity or something we could do here? So the first part of the feasibility is those small business entrepreneurial opportunities. And then there's the development, the investment piece. What you see here is when we talk about the feasibility and the regulatory efficiency is we work on these things together. This is a snapshot of the housing blueprint that we did for West Coconut Grove in Miami. And what we do is we model under your zoning. We have an architect on our team who's focused on economic development, but he'll look at your zoning and he'll start designing what can fit there. What could we really build? What could we park? What can we do within your code? And at the same time, there on the right-hand side, we're doing development and operating pro formas. So we're looking at both the regulatory and the financial, so the financial piece the CRA can do and the regulatory piece, and how can we find as many different levers we can pull to get a project to financial feasibility and return on investment that an investor or private sector is going to target in order to deploy their money into your community. And then come back and be able to tell you, you know, there's 11 different things you can do, and you're going to need to do 4 or 5 of them to make this happen. And you would have policy decisions on which of those levers you want to take. And you as a board are going to have a different pain threshold on different ones of those, and even amongst yourselves, your pain threshold on which ones you want to, which levers you want to pull or incentives you want to do or things. You know, that will come back to you to see how you can get there. So that's the bigger, you know, the long-term type of investment that's really there and can drive your TIF and your increment to be able to continue implementing your plan. The third piece, which is that place brand. You'll see there on the top right what the old Palm Springs logo looked like. Made you think they were in the state of Georgia, not Palm Beach County. But when we do place brand, it is more than logo creation. But it did include logo. They needed a refresh. They were kind of tired of the teal and the yellow, and they wanted something. It's a very contemporary economic development logo. And they actually got really bold in terms of which of the options they took. But as part of that, we also went into, okay, how do we find the stories? How do we tell the stories? And in what context do we do that? So the strategy piece was, and here we had a good base to work with. They actually had their tagline, which was a great place to call home. And as we got in, we realized we're finding all these other great things that you can do in Palm Springs. You know, live, work, and play is always, you know, the now so overused one, but you can recreate there. You can taste. We've got these great clusters of international restaurants. No one really realized were there just along these state road corridors. You can rejuvenate. A lot of health and wellness and spa type activities there. It's a great place for pets because it is the cluster in Palm Beach County of veterinarians. So how can we get other things? People are bringing their dogs and their pets there. How can we get other activities in there and other businesses that relate to that that can kind of capitalize on that? So we found all these different things, and that became how we message out this is a great place and a place that you, and look at helping enhance or change that identity for economic development. And then the other thing that we can help you with is the engagement with the folks who do this, with those entrepreneurs, with those businesses, with the developers or the investors who can come in and help this area in a way that stays authentic to what the area is. The other thing, you know, growth for growth's sake is not an economic development ideology. You want to build on the brand and the identity you have. You know, it's one of the reasons we first want to focus on potential entrepreneurs or even ones we don't know about who are there is at the end of the day, we're trying to do this to build wealth in the community here. But it takes investment to do that. And so finding the right partners and investors for your community is part of this. I put in here just a couple of different ones. And these are in Miami. Overtown's hottest restaurant, Red Rooster, which came out of, it's a company, Marcus Samuelian and Derek Evans, based in Harlem, started their first restaurant up there. They've now got about 12. They brought the Red Rooster concept down to Miami, into the Overtown neighborhood, and it's been just a great anchor there, and they've opened a restaurant in Atlanta, a couple in the Bahamas. That type of entrepreneur who understands a community and sees the opportunity, sees the potential. It's not so much about market demand, but I see the potential and the market potential to do something. So finding those types of entrepreneurs that connect to a place, and look for those places that help enhance their brand. And then also in Overtown, we do some work with developers, and we're working with Tara, who's working with the Overtown CRA and some of the local stakeholders and property owners there that they've partnered with in getting, again, some of that investment that's going to happen in there to drive that TIF and drive that increment that then can really create a lot of the public realm improvements that are needed in this area. And just other things that you might need, you know, and I think some of these were in our past, the last fiscal year agreement. Just if you, I mean, economic and financial modeling, CRA plans, transportation corridor, just other things that you might need and decide, hey, Chris, this is something, you know, and we can always give you a scope or proposal or concept on what that might look like. And I just put in there a few of the CREs we've been working with recently. And then Chris asked us to come up with what a scope would look like, and this is about where we ended up in terms of those things that we think are the next things you need to do, which is, that feasibility analysis that really will say, okay, we can get this in, this isn't gonna work, here's some tweaks you need to make to enhance your position to compete for this investment. Looking at that fitment and the financial feasibility, so you understand which levers you need to consider, and then some of that guidance on place brand, and that identity and how you can move forward with that. I believe that's my last slide. Thank you for the time. Went a little longer than I expected, than I planned on it, but really appreciate the time.
Thank you. Does anyone have comments?
I have questions, a couple questions. Thank you. Is this analysis that you're talking, will this be restricted to just that business district that we're talking about, or is this for the whole central CRA?
So when I did this, I think it was developed for the 9th Avenue corridor.
Okay.
But truly, with the exception of probably the opportunity side, well, in case, actually the way we structured it really would apply to the whole central CRA.
Okay.
Because for the most part, when we're looking at the feasibility of a small business or an entrepreneur to come into 9th Avenue, it's really going to be looking at it, it's going to relate to the whole central CRA, and maybe even to at least parts of the other CRAs that touch this corridor. So for the most part, I think, yes, it would.
And then, what, do we have like boundaries that, for this, business district? I mean, I know we're saying 9th Avenue, but is it where at on 9th Avenue?
So with this one, the initial concept we looked at was 9th Avenue West. So from
Between
9th and 9th.
Street and
If I-
First.
First and
between First and
and
9th.
9th, okay.
On this one, though, we're
Okay.
thinking because of where some, especially CRA property is, would be from 9th East to 9th West.
May
Would
I,
be the
if
full
I think
corridor.
I might be
Okay.
able to help. This is the original study? Is this still?
Correct. So the study, we
Would you like
focused
to-
on the blue.
Put it up there? I mean, just for,
Sure.
if she would like to see the geographic.
And in all actuality, the area surrounding the corridor, you might say is more the CCRA. However, that corridor is in the Bradenton
You're upside
CRA.
down.
Thank you.
Right, so where we focused the detail on was in the area that's in blue, but when we think about the corridor and what we're talking about today, it's the entire range, east to west of the corridor.
And,
Which is.
and maybe this isn't for you, but do we have control of any of this property? I mean, do we know?
We own it, you mean?
Yeah.
We do. We have on, I believe it's the Bryant Commons, it used to be the Bryant Commons properties. So
Which
we have,
is exactly where at
I
on here?
believe it's 3rd and 9th.
On the
Yeah.
east side, First and
It's just west of Lincoln Village.
Okay,
23rd, yeah.
Okay.
thank you. I just needed to kind of orient myself a little bit.
variance.
Yeah.
I always need an aerial.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's more or less the parcels that front 9th.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Well,
But I think there eventually could be the spillover.
yeah, would you recommend that you focused in one area first and then, so we have success and then we can build on success, or do you try to?
For the most part with this, it's gonna apply to the corridor. Now, where we focus first in doing what we call the fitment, the opportunity site, which is more designing what can be built here from a new development, that would be more targeted in the location where it happened. Because you may have, and the site you own may not be the best one to do first. It probably is because you do have site control and that enhances its positioning.
Mm-hmm.
But, it is kind of, okay, what are the ones that make sense to start from that perspective? But, when we think about the feasibility for entrepreneurs and small businesses,
Mm-hmm.
it's really sort of two looks. There'll be an east and a west component to that, but not necessarily, as we do that, then it'll come out, well, this would be the best part, the best location. And what we'll find there also is, it'll be understanding, okay, well, You know, when we're talking about bringing entrepreneurs and small businesses in, you have to have a place to put them in. And so where are those spaces that are actually realistic and could be available to kind of target that? But it's still going to be more about the overall corridor. And when we talk about the aesthetics, that will be corridor wide. Again, there may be two concepts that kind of link together because you do have a pretty big barrier between the two sides. But that would be important both for the corridors and even at your gateways. And maybe even around the corners there on 9th at each of your gateway entrances.
I am so pleased that you're bringing your expertise to the area so that, and you really get it. We want to revitalize a historical part of the city. We don't want to change its personality. We want to bring it back. And I'm sitting here looking to someone that is a legend, a living legend, and there's so much history that she could share with us, and she has, that vision can become realized. And I just look forward to more, and your expertise is going to be quite beneficial in bringing a lot to Ward 5. I mean, of course, we're in CRA, CCRA, and the Bradenton CRA. And it will also benefit the 14th Street CRA. This is not, this is not a vacuum, so.
That's right. I'm glad you brought that up because one of the other things that we looked at in the broader presentation and plan is that the Central CRA and 9th Avenue isn't just sitting here as an island. And you've got a lot of different nodes, and you've got a lot of different activity centers, and you've got a lot of different great things going on in Bradenton. And 9th, when I look at and when I do this and I start thinking of places, I just print out a big aerial and I just start drawing circles on it and connections. And this can be really the hub to all of the different things that you have happening, whether it's in downtown or Manatee Village or, everything you've got going on. This really can serve as the hub. And if you think about how disconnected different areas can be here, downtown, Village of the Arts, I think about creating those connections through not necessarily corridors, even though that is part of it, but I start looking at infill and how infill opportunities here, especially to the north side, again, that connects between your different CRAs, starts getting you to downtown because you have a walkable distance from here to downtown, but you don't have a walkable environment. And so creating some of that will really have that sort of revitalizing type of connectivity that's more than just a pretty corridor that cars can drive down.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. As it has been brought up, a rising tide lifts all boats. So I don't see this as like a petri dish, except for the fact that sometimes things that are done in a petri dish can blossom and grow as well. My question is, because I think it's going to be critically important that when we are engaging with our citizens, we also have the opportunity to share information about what might be the best economic engine and what can be something that will bring and reap benefits for years and years to come. And I think that's very important to share. Many people don't have your expertise. Many people do, I don't. Many people don't have the understanding of how certain businesses affect an economy and continue to improve the entire area around it. What are people magnets? What are people deterrents? What can make something, it's like there's that switch that can get flipped, and then all sorts of things happen. And it helps everyone.
That's exactly right, and I went back to this side because that's a lot of the work that we're doing with Tara in the Overtown CRA, is a lot of that communication. And as you do this, we have about in our approach about 6 different areas, and you've seen about three of them when we focus on. But another one is, and this is in our approach, and this is in what should be in your approach, and as the city, is there's 3 critical things that when you get into implementation are part of that, and one is predictability and certainty. You know, people knowing just what your processes are. The second one is credibility. Just building that credibility in the relationship that you have with your community and that you have with your prospects. And the third one is information, and having the right and the accurate and the relevant information for people to stay informed, to make the decisions that they need to make. So no, you're exactly right, and it's something we think about a lot when we're doing this. And frankly, we think about it especially even when we're working with developers who are looking at redevelopment in places. Because there's just select ones we work with, and you said that we get it. That's we have the benefit and the luxury in our firm of being able to do the same thing and work with people who get it, and work with CRAs and boards and clients who see it kind of the same way that we have a connection with. And so the point is taken, and we agree completely with you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you know, we have a list of a scope of work, and we have this information that's been presented. And I'm wondering if what we might want to do from here is instruct staff to sit down and actually negotiate a contract that we can vote on as to, because I see there are certain things that are here that are by hours or by sites. And maybe if we have a contract that's a little more nailed down that we could look at and then actually vote on, that may be a way to go. I would be interested in how the other board members feel.
Are we able to do it as like a piggyback or like a continuing services, or do we have to do another RFP or an RFQ?
No, this isn't the type of contract that would require any type of formal RFP process, so we could move forward in the discretion of the board.
Okay.
Well, I concur with that.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we should move it along.
Mm-hmm.
And to Mr. Wooten's point about seeing stuff done, there's a saying from John Wooten, be quick, but don't hurry. And this is that process. We have to make sure we do it right the first time, because we can't afford to start and stop.
And we know there's gonna be resistance from even the community, because some people have their ideas that, oh, well, if you bring this there, it's gonna be a nasty place. No, not, you know, we can't look in a backwards way of thinking. And I say it all the time, government moves extremely slowly, but you have to sometimes to get it right. Now, do I think it's gonna take 20 years for this to happen? No, I don't feel it's gonna take 20 years. I think I'll still be alive when we get this going.
So,
Want to make a motion?
are you okay with that process? I mean, you're.
Yeah, I'm good with that process. I mean, me and Kevin have talked, and I think that's a great idea. We've talked about a couple things as far as the Bryant Commons property and things like that. Look at what we can successfully do within a shorter time frame that shows the community that we are, engaged and want to see a better future. So I'm really excited to do that.
And Mr. Chair, to your point, one of my team members always puts in her emails, #GSD, get stuff done, but it doesn't mean
I like
stuff.
that. Get stuff done. That's
Hashtag,
right.
I got it.
I like it.
Is there need to make a motion? Or?
Yeah, so the chair will entertain a motion to direct staff to move forward with negotiating with Business Flair for services as proposed.
Is that
Mr.
your,
Chair,
is that your motion?
I will entertain that
So-
motion.
No, I was gonna ask Ms. Coachman if that was her
So
motion.
move that the 9th Avenue West Corridor revitalization next steps, well, the next steps coming from the expertise of Business Fair, we have moved that staff can move forward in working on an agreement to do so.
Thank you. We look forward to it.
Second.
All right, motion is second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. None opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you for your
Thank
time.
you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, sir.
Next thing up, next thing is hiring a security firm for CRA district areas. We have Lance Williams to kind of present what this would be. It's basically adding security in the garage and parks in the CRA district areas. And I'll let him go ahead and start his presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning again, Chairman and Board. Lance Williams, Finance Director for the City of Bradenton. I have with me Mr. Brian Cho, who is our Solid Waste Superintendent. It's been probably about 6, maybe 8 months ago, in one of our Monday meetings at Public Works, Mr. Cho had brought up some concerns that his staff is dealing with in the cleanup of some of our parking garages specifically. I'm going to show you some pictures. Yeah, they're clean enough. They're PG. They're PG. So this is something that we see on a relatively regular basis. Well, we don't. Mr. Cho's staff does. Sees on a relatively regular basis. Every morning when they go through the garages to clean up, both judicial and city garage, just kind remnants being left by our folks that hang out there at night. Unfortunately, in this picture, you can there are some syringes and needles and so forth. That's as bad as it gets. So it's relatively PG. And this is our latest version of a makeshift bed at the end of one of our stairwells. So, so the more Brian and I talked about it, I said, well, let me see what we can do. Let's see what some of our solutions are. I reached out to our police department, spoke with the chief. She said, well, let's see if we can maybe run some staff through there and see if that helps at all. And if it does, then we can kind of expand the idea of having a presence in the garages. So we did that immediately. It helped. Not something that was sustainable, but more of a test. So I spoke to Mr. Cho. He said, with literally immediate, he saw immediate response. No more was there garbage there. No more needles. No more other things that you can imagine. So we kind of started to think about it a little further. So I reached out to the former executive for the CRA, and she and I started talking about kind of expanding that, not that issue or that cleanup or that concern. She was receiving concerns, and I think Mr. Cho can speak to this as well, about personnel or people being in the parks at nighttime when they're supposed to be closed. So essentially, we have people that are in the garages, in the parks, when they shouldn't be. It's unsafe, and then obviously they're not taking care of the area as well. So I know there was one instance where after they were removed, Mr. Cho had to have staff go into a park and actually clean up the entire park because of the remnants that were left. So the more we started talking about it, I kind of put together a stakeholder team of Mr. Cho, myself, the CRA, now Mr. Munyon is helping with us, and the police department. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was involved that would have a stake in what we were going to recommend. We went through the locations, making sure they were in the CRA. It kind of expanded from just the garages to the parks. I think initially we kind of overreached a little bit. We kind of got excited and had some areas that weren't in the CRA. We realized that was the case. So maybe an option sometime down the road if this is successful. But we are looking to have a presence from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. to simply kind of be available, to look at the areas, make sure that there aren't people in the parks, to make sure that there aren't people essentially hanging out in the garage stairwells. This is simply a security person. This person will not have a weapon. They're not a police officer. They're going to be there to let anybody that's in an area that shouldn't be, let them know that they shouldn't be there. If there's any resistance, then they will reach out to the police department for assistance. But we literally have staff that are cleaning up this thing, these types of things on a daily basis. We're spending a lot of money in the city, both with the CRA and the city, to make our town beautiful, our parks beautiful, and we need to kind of preserve some of that. So what we're presenting today is to have hire a security firm, to have a security officer from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., 7 days a week, 365 days a year, to tour those areas to make sure that they are free of nighttime activity. So.
And if I can expand on that also, I've heard from just about all of you that you have high concerns about our recycle areas, and you've all experienced the dumping and the contamination that we've had at that. And I'm extremely frustrated with it also. And you know I take a very proactive approach to all of this, and I believe that Lance has got a great idea here by being proactive in helping not just our parks and garages, but also our recycle areas, because they are within the parks and the CRA areas also. So that would be a great help to us in reducing in some of the complaints and some of the illegal dumping that we have.
Excuse me, Mr. Williams, can you give us the list of the locations that you had selected?
Yep, absolutely. So we have our kind of stakeholder group came up with a scope of services, and then again we listed the areas that we would like to have essentially patrolled by the security guard. We have both garages, so the city center garage and the judicial garage. The parking garage that apparently is next to Sage Biscuit apparently is not our garage, but has issues as well. We have all of Riverwalk Skate Park, Rossi Park, Norma Lloyd, MLK, and Love Park. And again, this is something that it's kind of our initial list. If it's something that, we want to see either to restrict some of those areas or expand some of those areas, we're essentially buying time of a security officer. So we can say, okay, we want you to patrol these areas a little heavier, a little lighter. If they start to go outside the CRA, then that's obviously something the city would have to fund, and that could be a much broader discussion. But the point is having a presence at night to be able to make sure that our parks, our garages, our areas that should be secure, no longer have personnel in there.
I have another question, which was initially when the skate park was set up and opened, it was to be open for 24 hours. Has the city council taken and changed that policy? Are you aware? I mean, I know I was not here for 8 years, so I'm.
Not that I'm aware. I don't think that policy.
And again, I have no problem with having a security guard going by and looking at it, that sort of thing. But if the policy is that the skate park is allowed to be open 24 hours, then they can't ask anyone to leave, but they can ascertain and make sure that everything's copacetic.
Correct.
And the bathrooms are copacetic.
Correct.
The bathroom's closed.
Right.
Well, the only thing I would say is using the skate park, but not sleeping at it.
Right.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be copacetic.
Right. Urban camping is not.
Okay.
And I know, and maybe Mr. Moore could speak to it at some point, but I know our skate park, when we opened it, took on some graffiti and, again, some nighttime activity that, we don't want, quite frankly.
Some of that was
So,
public art.
it's not, yeah, unfortunately, it wasn't public art. But yeah, so we've since, cleaned that up and curtailed that, but, we have a beautiful town, we have a beautiful city that we are trying to continue to improve. And this is just, I guess, one more step and one more tool. Just to be clear, I've talked to Mr. Rudisell several times. He's been several meetings. We feel very comfortable this fall. It's a tool essentially for our community policing. We're not hiring a police officer. Again, they're not going to carry a weapon. They're not enforcing anything other than if you're in a location that you shouldn't be and the area is closed, you have to move on. Again, any resistance, they'll seek out the assistance of our police department.
One other just observation. We're looking at a financial impact of 56 hours per week, 52 weeks per year, a total of almost 2,900 security hours at a cost of 110,000. When we hire an officer one officer, and we train them, outfit them, they have cars, they have equipment, this sort of thing, what does one officer cost us?
So one officer, this will actually be less without the training piece, outside of the normal schooling, is about $117,000 a year. So that's for one officer, and that's without a vehicle. You add in a vehicle of approximately about $40,000. Now you're at about $157,000 for one officer. The nice thing about a security firm, you know, we hire one officer, we could do that, absolutely. We hire that one officer, they go on vacation, they get sick, they're not available. We don't have that service. We hire a security firm, and if if that's Bob's detail and Bob is on vacation, then the next person up can take over. Our services aren't hindered by somebody being absent for a various number of reasons. So it's much less expensive, and I don't want to say more reliable, but it's more flexible.
I think in theory, this sounds great and goes directly at slum and blight. I don't have a problem with CRA funds with it. I think the key is going to be who the personnel are that are doing this. And I know when this was meant to be a year contract. I might recommend that we do a 6 months renewable for 6 months, just in case, the right people aren't there. It's going to take the right person that could do this without creating a bigger problem.
Agreed. A little bit on that real quick. That's why I wanted to make sure that our police department was involved from the very beginning, specifically our CRA leaders. So I had Sergeant Pilot and Lieutenant Seymour involved in our meetings. They've been involved in our scope of services, as well as the chief, the assistant chief, and the police attorney as well. So they know all about it. They're aware of it. They know what we're trying to do. And as far as the contract goes, and we're still in the process of working with that with Mr. Rudisell, it is a year contract, but I do believe that we can put in a 30-day even cancellation stipulation if we decide to do that. We're using a general services contract, so we don't have to go through the RFP process. But to Mr. Rudisell's point in our communications, we need to have some specificities in there to make sure that it aligns with what the city is trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll give us that flexibility to say, this isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
We need to either change it up, or we're gonna go elsewhere or do something different without being adhered to a year contract.
That sounds good to have at least that clause in there, and because sometimes personalities don't
Correct.
work out, and I'm sure our officers will be able to identify that and let us know. I'm near two of the parks, Love and MLK, and I have definitely noticed the difference, but I know it takes a lot of manpower and womanpower to do that. And it would be great to have a stable eyes and ears, revolving around. So,
I agree that the eyes and ears are good. My concerns would be some extension of liability, which I imagine that Mr. Rudisill is addressing in the contract. I see that Chief Bevan is here. I do not know if she would like to speak to it, but I think, does not want to do that. And I only mention that and maybe ask you to opine a tiny bit because I have been hearing from citizens really accolades for the community policing officers, one in particular, and that tells me that it does create or require a relational kind of person, yes. And so my only concern would be that when Bob is gone, we get a new person, and that person, we don't know what we're getting. Do we know what we're getting?
Right, and I appreciate that. I agree with that. The intent of this is not as an interface with our community, simply as eyes and ears. Currently, and you all don't receive this report, I receive a nightly report from the Watch Manor that tells me the list of locations that officers got out and walked to determine. We've had a big problem in the garages with folks sleeping in there. Obviously, there's a trespass ordinance, so it's against the law. But the Public Works, and I don't know, I wasn't here at the very beginning, are faced with, defecation and just some horrible aftermath. And so we started these midnight patrols in order to alleviate that, and it's been successful. So in theory, all we're looking to do is replace the officers out there doing that when they should be out actually walking in some of our high crime areas, out there in the street at 3 a.m. patrolling some of the areas that need to be patrolled where there would be interface with the community. And these folks simply get into a stairwell and saying, hey, there's somebody there, that's against the law, do you want to leave, or can I go ahead and call the police? And so it's not supplanting our activities, it's enabling us when it comes to freeing up the folks to do what they should be doing. And this is nothing new. Even here in the region, the county does it. They actually have an employee that does it with their garages. The school board has a firm, or maybe it's an employee that does it with their schools. And if you look at research right now, more and more cities and counties are looking towards private security to fulfill tasks that they can fulfill to allow the officers to get out and do actual real policing. And so we did work together. I appreciate what you mentioned about the continuing contract. I want to have the option, if it just doesn't seem like it's working out for whatever reason, that we can bow out without cause, say, we don't like how this is rolling out. And to his point, it costs about $120,000 for an officer, but think about that. It takes 5 officers to fill one position. So it's really just beyond that. It takes a lot to get somebody out there to do what they're going to do. So we'd like to give it a shot. If it works and helps, great. If it doesn't, we will be the first ones to tell you that it's time to cut it. If they cause us more problems, then help us, certainly.
And you did go over the scope of work. I know it went through some drafts, but you had a good
Several
advisor.
times. We looked at some of the companies that are on the continuing contract and felt comfortable with one of them. But again, we're going into new territory here. But we're confident, because other places have done this, that it's not some new revolutionary thing, and particularly in that the county even does the same exact thing, that that this will work. So.
Anything else? Okay, thank you all. We do have some public comments coming. I have on my list Bill Sanders.
How many times does he get to talk on the same thing?
Not yet.
I've done before I
Resetting.
Reset. Bill Sanders, 2502 Riverside Drive. I don't disagree that our city buildings need to be policed, but the CRA is not responsible to do it with funding. In fact, it's not in the CRA plan that I just presented, that if it's not in the plan, you can't do it. Now, we did amend the plan to put policing in there, but I think this is a stretch to put private policing at our public facilities. This board, when I was on it, approved hundreds of thousands of dollars for community policing. Where are they? Why wasn't one of those assigned? They're already being paid out of the CRA funds, which I did not agree with that, because I think it's an abuse of CRA funding, because you have city employees that was just up here asking for CRA funds. This is our police budget is $22 million. We should be doing this anyway. What if we didn't have a CRA? Are you saying that you wouldn't police it? You'd be policing it before. Now, Mr. Chow has done a good job, and he's had a heck of a job because of the policy making here. He came from New Mexico, was hired by Mr. Perry, and has done it. Is that not true?
I wasn't aware.
I thought so, Mr.
That's not true.
Let's
Okay.
not engage.
Don't let the facts
You
get
didn't do-
away.
you- yeah, is that another,
Facts get away, but it's fine.
another guy?
Just go,
Okay.
just go.
All right, that was another guy. Okay, so, back to funding this, you're taking out funds from the CRA, which has a separate account number, and you're putting it over in, for example, I'm looking at it here if you want to see it, general fund. Whether it's an internal thing, where's the money? Show me, public records request, show me that your trust fund has not been moved. You still have a trust fund open and it has $6, $7, $8, $10 million in it? Yes or no? Can I have a copy of the trust fund? Because it is mandatory by state statute that the trust fund receives the funds from the county and it remains in there, and it should be distributed by this CRA board. It should not move over to Bank of America with the city. I don't know if that's happening or not, but I haven't heard anybody say anything different. Also in this, we have properties that you're trying to protect that aren't in the CRA. You got a county property, you got Norma Lloyd Park.
Thank you, sir.
Can I have 30 seconds? I cannot. Norma Lloyd Park's not even in the CRA. That's in your district, Mrs. Barbie.
No, it is not.
It's not in Ward 2?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry you are so confused, but no, Norma Lloyd Park
You're right,
is
I am
not in
confused.
Ward
Norma
2.
Lloyd Park is not. That's Lewis Park,
And it's not,
right?
and it's not on that.
We have one more comment from the public, then I may have staff come back up for point counterpoint here. Tim, I might have to put the cheaters on for this one, hold on. And I might still get it wrong. Postuma?
Brian Cho.
No, but, well,
Gotta
Tim,
let the citizen come up.
Brian, if you could let the citizen speak, and then I'll let you speak. Did I get the name right? Yeah, Postuma? Postuma, okay.
I live in Ward 5, and our neighborhood parks are Love Park and Martin Luther King Park. And we have a new dog, and we take daily walks a couple times a day through the parks. And we have noticed an uptick in the unsavory behavior that you saw pictures of downtown. In fact, somebody actually pulled an actual mattress into Love Park and was sleeping there at night. And on our walks with our dog, we talk to our neighbors, and I hate to say this, but a lot of them are afraid to use the parks. They won't use them. They won't take their kids there. I can count on one hand the number of times I've seen children play in those parks, and we're in those parks twice a day. We, when my wife walks the dog, we pick up the trash, and it's really been quite bad, particularly in Love Park. So I'd be in favor of this, particularly if they come from out of downtown and go into the wards to do their patrols. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Cho, please come back up.
And can I say something? Not yet?
Not yet.
Brian Cho, Superintendent for Solid Waste. And for the record, I've never been to New Mexico. So.
Okay. Point of clarification.
And I believe you were here before Mr. Perry.
Thank you, sir, for pointing that out for the record.
Now, Mayor?
Okay. I'll open up to public, I'm sorry, council comments.
Or you could open up for, look for a motion, and then we can have discussion. It's up to you.
So is there a proposal motion on here? Yes, there is, I believe, at the bottom, if anyone wants to make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion to approve funding for overnight security services in the amount not to exceed $110,000 with a stipulation of a 6-month trial period, or that we get some language in there that says if it's not working to,
May I?
A right to
Yeah.
cancel.
Friendly.
yeah, we have the right to cancel if it is not working out.
Yes.
30-day, whatever.
Cancel without
30, 60
cause.
There's a
Is
I'll
that,
second it.
Mr. Rudisil, is there a cleaner way you would like that stated? Or?
No, I think that's fine. I understand.
Okay, thank you.
motion and second. We'll have comment.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to make a comment about the parks. Yeah, it has been a little of an uptick. It was way worse at one point because we had campers. But this is definitely a way to at least reduce that even more. And I have said, because there's money allotted to revitalize those two parks. And I've openly made comments that, you know, people don't feel safe going to those parks, and it's going to take time for them to see it. Now, consistently, it has been better, and it's just going to take a little more time for people to observe it being better, and then they will probably start using it. But I drive by. I don't walk all the time, but I drive by all the time. Thank you for your due diligence and keeping an eye out.
To follow up, again, I would clarify that this is not funding a police officer. Generally, it is a specific function. The community policing is a specific function. It fits within our plan, and clearly the community desires it. And again, because of what I'm hearing from citizens about the current community police officers, I think it's a good idea that we take time and care when we're hiring and putting officers in that position of community policing, because it does take a special personality. So I think that we should be responsive to the community and continue to encourage the chief and her staff to do their due diligence when they are hiring and appointing officers to this role.
Further comments on all? Any further comments?
I think the only, just to kind of reiterate that I feel like this is just going to enhance the community policing. And so that's why I feel like it's totally appropriate for CRA financing, so.
Okay. All right, there's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next on the agenda, sir.
Yeah, hi. Next on the agenda is the funding for equipment and operational services for the downtown maintenance initiative. Basically, we have a request for funds for operational expenses of $50,000 and equipment up to $13,000. This program was approved in February and will be reevaluated in February 2024. So we are looking for that funding, and Mr. Williams is here as well to kind of present that as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris. I'm just trying to get much of FaceTime with you guys.
Too much.
Lance Williams, City Finance Director, here with Mr. Mora. And what we're doing is initially we had a budget, an operational and an equipment budget for his downtown staff. That's, as I think you can all agree, it's very much cleaning up the downtown area and doing a fantastic job. So we're just putting a budget together to kind of fund, what their needs are, equipment-wise, and then operational-wise. Since this program is on kind of a contingency on if we want to continue to do it, and will be reevaluated, we've sat down and said, okay, what can we? Sat down with Mr. Munyon, myself, and Mr. Moore, and we said, okay, what is it that we can essentially borrow from the city that we don't need to pay for. But what is essential that we need to actually buy to allow them to do the job, because if we don't give them the proper funding to perform at the peak, we'll never know what the potential is. And so we want to make sure that we did that. So what we are asking for today is an annual cost of $63,600. And that does cover both operational and capital expenses. But what I'd like to do is does everybody have a copy of the scale down? So what we did was we wanted to provide what the budget would actually look like. If we were to fund this wholly on, through the CRA, what would that budget look like? The operational budget would be upwards of $72,000. Again, because Mr. Moore has been able to work with our public works staff and essentially borrow some equipment and different items, we were able to take out some of the things that we didn't necessarily need to have to pay for at this time. Just wanted to again be transparent to say, if this initiative is approved to go forward next year, these are some of the things you're going to look for to look to fund. So just kind of kind of keeping an idea. We also wanted to show where we really kind of scaled back to absolute necessities. Then the other page is the description of the equipment. As you can see, we took out all the vehicles, the gator, some of the ride-alongs, even the radios. We're borrowing essentially from the city. The city, the CRA, the board, the council, we all want to make sure this initiative is successful. We want our downtown to look fantastic. I think Mr. Moore's group has done a fantastic job thus far. We're just simply looking to secure the funds to be able to allow them to do what they need to do. Would you like to speak to anything?
I just want to thank you all for your support in everything that you guys do up here. I heard a lot of the comments, and I want to thank each one of you for what you do. It's amazing, and I thank you for your support for the Downtown Action Team. And I will be bringing them up here so you could meet them. I have 3 so far, and hoping to get another one. So thank you.
And I can tell you, every morning they are out there working, every single morning. So doing a fantastic job.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Williams or Mr. Mora? Go ahead, ma'am.
Just wondering when I might be able to see some flowers. You knew it was coming.
We actually talked about it last
Members of the board, I thought when you plant flowers, you dig a little hole, you buy a flower, and you put it in the ground. Come to find out, it goes deeper than that. You have to
No pun intended.
You have to get a survey. You have to identify all the lines. You have to identify all the water lines before you start to dig. So right now, our park maintenance superintendent is working up a plan. He's going to get the person out there. He's going to mark. We're going to put annuals in the front and perennials up on the top. And then we're going to slowly start moving down Main Street and then branching out. Currently, my Downtown Action Team, on another note, we pretty much conquered Main Street. If you walk down there, you won't find a piece of old gum on that sidewalk. 4 months ago, you'd find hundreds. They're gone. They're on their hands and knees scraping it up. And then we power wash on Tuesdays and Fridays. So now we are branching out up to the next street. We have identified curbs that you've probably driven by that just had overgrowth on them. We identified them while we were cutting weeds, and now your curbs are exposed. We have painted them, so all the yellow and the red and the blue has all been painted, so it's looking amazing out there. But on another note, all the folks that are coming out of, that are sleeping inside the parking garages, they're now going in our alleys. So we are patrolling those alleys and power washing your walls, and it's looking great. So anything you need from us, please call.
Mr. Chairman, because, I'm sorry, Ms. Coker, you probably weren't done, but you were talking about flowers. Having done events in downtown and people trample over all of the landscape areas that we've done, has there been any thought to seeing if we could do some sort of hanging baskets and have something up high?
The ones that go around the posts on our street lights, street lamps.
Members of the committee, Councilor Barnaby. Yes, I was in front of BPD right now. They have the big old vases and with stuff in it and stuff hanging, and that is consideration. We took pictures of that, and we're really considering that. So,
Being able to have some sort of irrigation drip line
absolutely.
would be, but for me personally, because I know when we have these large events downtown, which we want to continue to have, the only way to keep people from stepping into the landscaping is if you put something that's gonna scratch their legs. Having had to deal with some of this in some of the previous experiences that I've had. So again, Ms. Coker loves the flowers, loves the landscaping, and I appreciate that. I am wondering if we might want to try different things in different places so that we can have some color and have some flowers and promote that ambiance, because Florida was named after flowers, but not necessarily have it where people can step on them.
Well, see, that was my thought. They have those baskets that go around the post. I mean, you've got a lot going on with their flags up there already, so I had more thought about the ones that go around the post, and then do the drip irrigation and all that, because I share your concern about
I think it's
being
gonna be a
trampled.
work in progress, and we're gonna kind of have to watch and see what happens. But I appreciate everything you and your
Yes.
staff are doing.
Yes.
Members of the board, councilors, yes, we will look into that. We will come up with something to show you and send it to you and see if you approve, and then
Awesome.
we'll get it done.
Thank you. I appreciate everything you've done since you've moved here from New Mexico.
Members of the board, councilor, thank you.
Thank you. It's very polite. All right. There is public comments on this topic from Bill Sanders. Now I get to move his card to the.
Bill Sanders, 2502 Riverside Drive. I apologize to Mr. No, not Moore, the other guy, what's his name? Joe. Yeah, he was not from New Mexico. This gentleman was from New Mexico. And for the record, they both do a wonderful job. That's not the intent, and that's not my comment. My comment is the funding, the financial funding, where it's coming from. It's coming from CRA, it's not in the plan, and it should be a function of the city to pay for this and not use funds that take away from affordable housing, homelessness, and slum and blight. And I'm sorry, Mrs. Barnaby, putting flowers out there, this is beautiful, I love it. In Venice, they do the same thing. The city pays for the flowers and the equipment, and the volunteers do it, and it's a beautiful city. I agree with you. It should be up and down all of our streets if we could afford it, just like the Christmas lights and that sort of thing. But we're get confused on how we fund these things, and that bothers me that we are now dropping the amount of dollars that we get to use for the problems that slum and blight. Planting flowers does not, I guess you could do a stretch and say that does that. And Mrs. Barnaby, I apologize. I know Norman Lloyd is not in your district, but there is a dumpster, or was, I don't know if it is today, in Lewis Park, and that previous presentation said that they were going to monitor that. They were going to monitor all the dumping at these 8 or 10 locations. Those are in the city. Some are in the CRA. One used to be in your neighborhood. So I think that's out of the scope. So that's where I was confused, just for the record. One other thing that's been mentioned, Chairman Roth said there was an auditor's opinion in 2019 that was not presented to this council or this board. 2019. This is in the minutes of July 20th, 2022. And it stated that Attorney Ross, conflict attorney, by the way, do we still have a conflict attorney, Ross? Do we have a conflict attorney?
We have a conflict attorney, yes.
We do? Okay. The conflict attorney said that realized Bradenton was not in the plan and it should be under contract. And Mr. Josh, you accused me and Patrick Roth of trying to kill Rise Bradenton, and that's not true. I've supported Rise Bradenton since its existence. And so, what? Since its existence, but it was in existence for about 12 years at $400,000 a year, which is $4 or $5 million, and it's a marketing thing. And so the state Congress said it was not. And so we were trying to follow the law.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
So,
Are you gonna?
we have to,
need
I think we
to-
need to vote.
we need
Motion.
to vote.
A motion.
We need a motion and a vote.
So at this point, the chair will entertain a motion to approve or deny the proposal.
I'll make a motion to approve the funding for downtown maintenance initiative, annual operation and equipment expenses up to $63,000.
There's a motion
I'll second it.
and a second. We'll have discussion.
Discussion. At the risk of agreeing with someone that I probably have not been agreeing with much, I am concerned too about the dollars, but I'm not so much concerned about the dollars coming out of the CRA. It's just the amount, because I see the overlap. But however, I approve of, or I'm in agreement with sharing the cost of keeping downtown Bradenton beautiful.
Yeah, any comments?
To me, this is low-lying fruit. We, all of the issues mentioned in citizen comment are very important. My focus is absolutely on that higher hanging fruit. But this speaks to quality of life, and to me, this is something that is, we can accomplish this. We can do this little thing. The dollars are very important. I don't think any of us take that lightly, but to me, this gets, just check one little thing off a box and do what we can do, and then tackle the bigger things, you know, as much as we possibly can.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Ruderstill. Does this fall within our scope, and are we able to do this?
Yeah, this was, we discussed this in some detail when the concept came forward initially to do this downtown action team program. This is a beautification team that goes above and beyond the normal general maintenance level that the city does across the board on all of its public facilities. And so, yes, we feel this is within the scope of what the board can do and within the CRA plan.
Thank you.
And in fairness, Mr. Mignon and I spoke about it when it came back up, that we need to fund this. We should have funded it at the beginning, just like when you fund an officer, you don't just fund the salary, you fund everything they need, all their equipment, everything else, so. Any further discussion? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes. Okay. Next, does anybody need a break or anything? Everybody good?
A 5-minute break would be
We're gonna take a
nice.
5-minute break before we get into the presentations. Back to order. Next on the agenda, please.
Next on the agenda is the recommendation for public art finalists for Mineral Springs Park. First, I'd like to thank G&G Farmer for all her work in this, and also I would like to thank the advisory board. They did a phenomenal job to this point, and look forward to having them involved as we move forward as well. So to present here is G&G Farmer.
Good morning. Can you hear me? Okay. So Tuesday, May 23rd, the Public Art Advisory Board met. We had narrowed down the field of public art finalists from 11 to 4, and then it reduced itself to 3. And so we actually had interviews of the 3 finalists that you see on the agenda. And of those 3, they narrowed it down to 2, which was Ronaldo Carrera and Allison Newsom. And from there, the board voted to go with Ronaldo Carrera for the entire park. So we would like to hear your questions and ask for a their recommendation is for Ronaldo Carrera.
Oh, okay, no presentation at all about this?
I have some pictures. I didn't know how much of a thing you
Yeah,
wanted.
everything was forwarded to us.
Well,
Yeah.
then I'm gonna go ahead, if, Mr. Chair, because I did have the opportunity to be, so there were only 2 presentations yesterday?
There were 3.
3,
They
okay.
narrowed it down.
So I only caught 2, but it sounds like I caught the top 2, so I'm lucky. And I will say, I walked out of there feeling great. I have a lot of praise for that board. I was very impressed. They seemed like they had a lot of different strengths amongst each of them, and it was just made me feel really good that y'all are in good hands. I caught a float, and is there a name for the other one? Ronaldo is that's the Singing River, right? Is that the Singing River one? Okay, and I love public art. To me, this is key, and when we put this out there, I think it is important to know what the artist is explaining. The afloat, that description, I mean, I felt really good about either one of those. But I love the Singing River. It harkens back to the historical folklore surrounding the river. And I love the idea. Now, one thing I wasn't sure about is these pieces aren't moving, right? They're stationary. Those are, okay.
Yes, they are welded together. It looks like they would move, but they don't move.
And I think we should go with the recommendation of the Public Art Committee, because you had some real talented people there that they do the metal work and all that. So I trust their opinion. I mean, I can't imagine. I know you had over 100 submissions on this.
119.
I know, and the time that they've put into it. So I would say, I mean, I love them. I hope that we can, maybe get something in the future from her, because that was really cool too with the cast nets. But anyhow, I just want you to know that we're in good hands.
Mrs. Barnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a couple of questions regarding the Singing River one, because we were presented several different color schemes. Are you saying that this color scheme is the color scheme that the
I am not.
Okay.
What's nice is this is a design concept. We still have on June 20th the chance for the community input, and we will be talking with them and learning more. And the other nice thing about this Public Art Advisory Board is they are ready to stay with the process, through this whole design part, because there's a lot of moving parts to this, through this next process. But I do have other pictures if you want to see them.
Well, when I was looking at this presentation, the colors that reflected the river caught my eye more than the magenta and golden colors. And I know that those are supposed to represent the sunset, and it's just a personal choice. I liked the colors that were used that reflected the river. I also wanted to discuss this photograph, because does that mean in the evening that those are luminescent? Do they absorb sunlight, or do they light up? Exactly how does that?
So those are LEDs, and they can be there or not be there. And there can be more, there can be less, sort of thing. So I have let's see, I think this, can I do this and have this on? No. Remember the little thing that looked like pan flutes? The little design that looked like this? That shows how the things are welded, and then the white piece is where they can also attach the LEDs. And so There was a suggestion by the Public Art Advisory Board about looking at it maybe being uplit instead of, anyway, there's a lot of discussion that would probably have to be done over the lighting.
Okay. Do you have the copy of the picture that shows the turquoises and the greens and?
No, but I
Because
have a piece
We
of.
do, but it's a different.
I do, but you'd have to use Elmo.
I only brought in the two that he had in different colors.
Yeah, that's what I've got,
You wanna
so.
put this on Elma?
Oh, I had that one. Okay, that was the
Okay.
one. That one?
No, the one that shows the turquoise.
Okay, I didn't bring that one. I haven't.
Would you like to put it on Elmo?
Sure. All right, let me take this off.
Because I'd like the audience to see. There are different options of different colors. There were different, and again, just for
That's
my,
upside down.
I'm not sure.
Well, while we're waiting, may I interrupt, or
Sure.
are you done?
well, I can continue, or you can add your,
I was,
right. Well, just for me personally, going through the three finalists, that the information that I was shared, there was one that I thought was, to me, it was a little simplistic, or perhaps belonged, it didn't reflect Florida to me that much. I thought
That
it
was the
was,
one that was not chosen.
because I thought this, to me, could go anywhere. It could be, any place USA.
The Public
To
Art
me.
Advisory Board did like the pieces. They just didn't feel they were appropriate for Mineral Springs Park and that they didn't really speak on the history.
Right. I found Ms. Newsom's work very creative. And I'm hopeful that she might be able to continue with us with another project at another time. My concerns, because of having done this and public art with my previous service to the city and my service now, I was concerned about the, not livability, how do I want to say this? I was afraid, and it would have just broken my heart, if someone had come in and damaged these pieces because they were easily accessible for the amount of money that we're putting into them, and I could see someone trying to knock one of the stained glass, for lack of a better term, out of the, or because it's so excessive, putting
The nice thing
graffiti on it,
is-
doing something else on it,
Excuse me,
so.
sorry. Well,
We're working on it, Mr. Wooten. I don't know where Ms. Kaiser is, and I can assure you, you don't want me touching the computer, because when it comes to mechanical things, I can screw anything up that way.
Sorry about that.
I have that, and I have.
Okay, so this is the piece that shows the more of the greens and the turquoises and the blues. I was looking to see if there was another piece, because I had it all here. Again, I fully appreciated the historical nature of this, and I hope that we can continue to keep Ms. Newsom interested and involved in the city, because she has quite a gift.
about your concern that was addressed to the Public Art Advisory Board about how that piece is made. And it's very, very thick. It's almost like bricks that she creates this work in. And then they are kind of sandwiched together, if you remember that piece in the presentation. But yes, it's a very well made, thought of.
I'm not trying to cast aspersions on her method or anything of that nature. I have just seen some of the things that have been purchased in the name of public art that become damaged almost immediately, and that's really sad. And as I said, breaks my heart when it happens.
Well, the nice thing is we have 5 criteria that we had: maintenance, sustainability, all kinds of, different things to address. And these 2 addressed every one of them to our.
It was evident the amount of time and effort that both of these 2 selected artists put into their presentations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you. It is always a good idea to staff your advisory board with experts that know what they are doing. The 3 finalists, when I looked at the pictures, I couldn't decide. I wanted a little of this, a little of that, and a little of this. The simplistic, sometimes simple speaks volumes. But these were great entries. I'm glad I didn't have to make the decision. I can't wait to hear what the public.
For the record, you sort of do have to make.
No, I didn't. I mean, I'm glad I didn't have to go through 100 of them and come, because I'm sure I would have said, okay, this one, because I have no creative ability. Okay, I can't even draw a straight line with a ruler. But these are all incredible. I wish I had gotten the opportunity to hear the artists actually present these, but the pictures are great.
Well, that is on a recording. Oh, no, I
It's
guess
on
not the
recording?
actual presentation, isn't it?
Oh,
Just our
it wasn't?
deliberation. Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, anyway, I can't wait to hear public input, and it's gonna be beautiful. Yeah. Art is a statement, and we want to make a grand statement.
I'm sorry. I always tell my kids that art, you find something in it. And I appreciate all 3 of them. I appreciate their hard work in tying it to our community in this particular area. And I agree that there's elements of all of it that I feel like I could think of where I might want to put them. Like the one that was not selected by the advisory committee, I feel like it is very river walky, and his inspiration, I think, is relevant to another organization that is doing some work in our areas with the Heritage Trail.
Awesome.
So I feel like
call them
let's
river
connect them.
walkers.
Yeah, like I feel like there's a space for all of it in the breadth of our city. So I too appreciate the work because I appreciate art, but I am not an artist, and so I'm thankful for the advisory committee as well. And I can't wait to hear what other members of the public say about it.
Any other? I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah, just that, so as I understand it, are you looking for approval from us today?
Yes.
And then you're going to go and work through some of the details?
Yes, at that point, we will begin the contract
Okay.
negotiations, and that's
Right.
where a lot of the details will be.
Well, the 2 items that I want to take special care with are the decibels that'll come from the sound
Yes.
and the light being very subtle, because that will become an issue for some of the surrounding residents. So if they could pay special care to that and have input, and also with Public Works, because I know when we did the Chrysalis launcher, the footer ended up having to be tripled or something, and so it was a big stepping stone at the end. So anyhow,
Those issues
I'm,
were,
if you're looking for a motion, I'm happy to make
I think we
it.
have to have some public comment.
There is public.
Oh, okay.
There's public comment,
Okay.
which we usually do before
I'll just
a motion.
add to, if you don't mind, real quick, to piggyback what Councilwoman Coker just said. Ms. Farmer was helpful because I was unable to make those presentations in letting me know a little bit of the practicalities that they've already been kind of researching and addressing with
Mhm.
Public Works and maintenance and that sort of thing.
Sounds like our advisory board and you definitely did due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
it is an amazing board. We took a lot of time to seat that board, you know, and we actually treated it like it was like a job interview, you know, to make sure that it would work.
Okay, thank you. The public comment I have is from Thomas Satcher. Keeping in mind, you already had sort of 3 minutes, so.
Which,
In the beginning. No.
yes.
Okay, so my name's Thomas Satcher, and again, I think it's amazing that y'all are, you know, going about putting art in public. I think it's really important, part of the identity of the location. And I wanted to focus on the aspect of local artists, so Alison Newsom's Project Afloat. Let's see if I have an image. Well, first of all, she's been more focused on the actual location than any of the other artists. She actually went there and walked the park and learned the history of it and really brought it in to her presentation and to her plan, but also actually trying to source artists that actually live here and trying to, I mean, a lot of the funding for this project would be immediately sent back into the local economy here underneath Allison's plan, so including myself. So I'm an artist of 15 years. I have a BFA from the University of Georgia. Let's see if this works. Hold the plan there. That'll work. So I have a BFA from the University of Georgia, and I have a master's from the Savannah College of Art and Design. This is my obsession. I live and breathe this all day, every day. It's art. It's art from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. So Allison presenting an opportunity for someone like me to be a part of something like that without having to do the reality is that these projects require extensive logistics that are typically averse to the mind that creates art. So this leads to very simple things. And this leads to what I would call like theme park type installations that get pushed through, because those are the type of projects that check the most check marks for logistics. But the reality is you have to live with these things. And when you have these things that are exciting on day one, they lose their luster almost immediately. A Michelangelo sculpture never loses its luster. It's immortal because it's beautiful forever. It's not going to be just, it's going to age beautifully with the location. So Alison Newsom's willingness to work with local artists that are living and breathing this stuff. And so her actual integration of the actual history of the people was incredible. So this is the fishing method used by the locals. This is the net casting. That's what where her interpretation for that came from. And then she's expressed that she's wanting to work with local artists for that figure as well, who is an incredible artist that's been making public sculpture for 40 years and is one of the best living, breathing figure sculptors in the world. So, and he's here, he's a local here. So a lot of it would come right back to this economy, and I think it's a...
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Your turn.
Okay, good. Appreciate you.
Appreciate
Thanks for your time.
Would you like a motion, Mr.?
You may.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Public Art Advisory Board's recommendation. Do we need anything else?
You can instruct staff to.
And direct staff to negotiate a contract with the artist.
Okay.
Just a point of clarification, did they advise that we go with their number one, or we
Yes,
just?
Number one.
Okay.
I'll second the motion with the additional verbiage from our legal
Motion second,
eagle.
we'll have discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I will just note that I find Mr. Satcher's point to using local artists and materials a bit persuasive, and absolutely no disrespect to the work and care that the advisory committee put into it. Just another point of consideration that honestly I had not really thought of until this meeting.
I know it was the discussion I saw, it was a big point. I don't know that the other one doesn't have local sourcing. I have no idea.
There could be some local sourcing.
Just didn't know.
You know, to the point of that, they did deliberate, about, it came down to, those two and possibly even having one of each. And so there, it's just, as the discussions continued, people thought about both sides, and it just ended up being that that's the way they wanted to go for this. But they really, really appreciated that piece as well.
Oh, yeah, they're both fabulous.
Mhm, yeah.
I think we have these boards, and I was very impressed with their thought process through it. I had and so I hate to go, I don't think we have a reason not to go with their recommendation, because they went through a lot to get to that point.
And I would like to speak about the local art, because, obviously I'm a big proponent of local art as well and want us to see other ways that we can use that. But this process had already begun, and this process was vetting the artists in the beginning, and the other artists weren't in that process. So that was one of the discussions they had.
Having served on the board of Art Center Manatee and working with them on their proposed new building as well as sculpture gardens, we had this conversation about wanting to make sure that local artists were given a leg up, so to speak. I haven't been on that board now for 3 years. I assume that they are still leaning that way. But it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing, because if you have not done outside public art and don't have a portfolio to show that, to be able to back up that, you can do what you say you can do, kind of thing. It's like the chicken and the egg. How do they get the experience? They don't have the experience, and they're not considered against people that have the experience of outside art, that sort of thing. It's a chicken or the egg thing. However, as I said, I do believe that Art Center Manatee does want to make sure that local art is included when they do their sculpture garden. And I think that as we continue this process of using public art to engage the community and create a sense of place by which encouraging people to attend and eliminating slum and blight, because that's what occurs when people don't want to go places. I think that we could look at that and talk about how we can encourage and incorporate more local artists.
Okay.
I don't know, can you speak to their deliberations, since unfortunately I missed it, and how they
Yes.
weighed the local component?
Yes, so, it was about the history, that they really liked Allison's. However, and on my presentation, if you give me a couple minutes, I can bring back up a picture, but with this presentation, he brought along a new piece that showed us interpretive kiosks. And so in those kiosks are the information that explains what their thought process was on their piece of art, and has a lot of the history. He did a lot of history research, and even brought things that I hadn't heard of. So that's what I think was the Public Art Advisory Board's, one of their big key things that brought an additional piece to it that we didn't get to show you because we didn't have it until that morning.
I guess my thought is because they're so close in just the art appreciation component, if there's this economic benefit that pushes one a tiny bit more, does that make sense? Basically, I appreciate the board's work in an area that I don't feel that I'm an expert, which is the art appreciation and selection, but the economic little extra, and by that I mean the dollar turning over here, is something that honestly I just had not considered when I was myself just looking at them for appreciation purposes.
Well, and it can be a policy that could be considered for additional art pieces in the future, but it was not part of the, essentially, if I'm remembering correctly, with the RFP that went out, it was not restricted by geography.
You mean the original RFQ?
Yes.
Right, it was put out to, it was just to America, but it was to, and we said we'd like Floridians too, especially.
So
and then
but it was
Bahamas.
not only, say, Tampa Bay regional artists?
No.
Okay. Something we may want to consider and look at.
Well, a couple of things. First off, because I have the benefit of having been there, there was a lot that they consider. And I even forgot about the kiosk thing. So I think unless there's a reason to second guess what their analysis did, I think we need to allow those volunteers that have put a lot of time into this, and I think unless there's a reason not to accept what they've chosen. Now, that being said, I agree, and I know there were questions, I heard questions asked about, was it being fabricated here? So I didn't get the whole time there, but I know that they were considering that. But I also, while I like to give preference to local, if you do that too much, then you will not have people from outside the area that want to, they'll say, well, why bother? They're going to go with a local person. And I think we got some world-class people that submitted, and I was very impressed. In fact, they all were very impressive, like I said. I just hate to see us not go ahead and, unless there's a good reason.
Right.
I don't think we should undermine them.
Yeah, I think that's a very excellent point, and maybe, that's, this conversation now maybe is letting us think about maybe using materials that are local or something along those lines as just a consideration, I say, I don't want to tell an artist what to do.
And
our choices.
we have other locations and other opportunities within the boundaries, because it is in our plan with the CRA groups that public art is something that can be used. So.
And now these artists are vetted. We've.
Mm-hmm.
They're amazing. So.
Ma'am, for the record, I do see you waving back there. We've already gone through the public comment portion, and we're actually in deliberations at this point, so I'm just not going to allow any more public comment, so thank you. All right. Any further comments from the board? Okay. Take a vote. All in favor of the motion as proposed, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, ayes have it.
Thank you for all your hard work. And thank you for continuing to be able to promote art in our CRAs.
I truly love it. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, all right.
Next on the agenda, sir.
Yes. All right, next up we have, from the 14th Street, we have Kimla Murrell, and she's gonna have, she has a presentation to the board in regards to funding at Exodus Resources Center.
Hello, everybody.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good afternoon.
Okay, it's still morning, yes. All
Yes.
right.
Oh, yeah, it is. You're right.
All right.
My
Well,
mind.
I am the president and CEO of Exodus Community Resources. And what Exodus does is we have the community. We encourage, we empower, and we educate the community. I love what the CRA is doing. I love that you're building, revitalizing, and in your revitalizing, do not forget the community. The community. We are the community. So, let me start off by saying, I know that the purpose for the CRA is to get rid of slum and blight. Blighted area means an area in which there are a substantial number of deteriorated or deteriorating structures, in which conditions, as indicated by government maintained statistics or other studies, endanger life or property, or are leading to economic distress, in which two or more of the following factors are present. The factors listed are A through O, and I'm going to focus on D, unsanitary or unsafe conditions, and incidents of crime in the area higher than in the remainder of the county or municipality. So, in my community, we want to get rid of slum and blight. How do we do that? I see that we put a lot of money into different events, different things that go on in the community, different art projects. I love it that this board supports the arts and culture. So what I would like to propose is that when we look at the arts and culture, that we don't forget the community, okay? So when I say the community, we can bring all of this money and put it into the community, but we have to change the mindset. Or you're gonna put something up and it's gonna be messed up again, they're gonna deface it or whatever. So my purpose is to pour the money into the community, into our youth. And I'm asking that we do that by bringing in services. Let's get services. I love it that you want to support local artists. You want to support building the community. So in doing that, we're grooming local artists. We're building youth and the community, bringing in programs and services for the revitalization of the community. I am a little nervous, so excuse me. So, Exodus Community Resources, we encourage, we educate, and we empower. Okay? We are asking for $150,000. I want to let you know our mission statement. My mission statement, the primary mission for Exodus Community Resources is to build our community by providing creative arts, educational tools, and a safe place for underprivileged and at-risk youth in the community. It is our goal at Exodus Community Resources to encourage, educate, and empower each individual we serve. We also provide the necessary tools that will enable them to achieve their full potential and become successful young men and women in our community, thus improving our community. The philosophy is our goal at Exodus Community Resources is to meet the needs of our community by providing a strong foundation that will empower its citizens to meet their educational, emotional, physical, and spiritual needs. We believe providing each individual with love, stability, motivation, and direction will give them a hope for their future and provide each individual with opportunities for their success. So Exodus, we do all types of programs. I have, we do M-Tron, we do Game On, which is a weekly virtual augmented reality and gaming program. It incorporates NFTs. We create websites, design, knowledge for the metaverse, which is a new thing for me. I'm still trying to get the universe together, and they're in the metaverse already. Okay. Truly Value, it is, and they have I Am Academy. It's a mentoring program that serves at-risk youth and families. This program promotes character and confidence building. It promotes education and community service. So remember, we're putting money into building this community. We want to build this community, but you have to build the people, giving them the things that they need. So when we are, as a community, building the community, that it can last, okay? We want to bring other people in, and you know, we're talking about tourists and everything, and they're coming in, but what about the people who are already here? What about the community? We're already here. So let's build, so when we bring other people in, that they understand that we are a strong community, okay? That we are a strong city. I saw on the presentation that the gentleman gave earlier with the statistics, that we want to create opportunities for gatherings, right? Well, Exodus Community Resources, we provide opportunities for gatherings. We educate, we do educational programs, we do creative arts, we've had poetry, we've had local authors who would never have the opportunity to hear their books being written or even heard of, come and read their books, explain to them, even explain to the people, and even explaining the process of how to become an author, you know, from A to Z, what you need to do. And so these are things that the culture and the arts make this community rich. I also heard him say local entrepreneurs. We have programs that will help teach you how to be an entrepreneur. A lot of times we have in our mind, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur, but what goes with that? How do you start? Where do you get funding from? What do you do? What do you want to be an entrepreneur of? So we're teaching because we want the community to know and be knowledgeable. Building wealth. Well, when you build your community, you build wealth. When you build the mindset, you build wealth. So that is what I'm asking for, that you support Exodus Community Resources. It says engagement. On the presentation, he was saying engagement, activities, and entertainment. That is all a part of the culture, which Exodus Community Resources provides. Redevelopment and revitalization. Exodus Community Resources, we are a part of that, revitalizing our community. We want this to be a place that you want to be, a place that you want to live, a place that you want to be safe in and have your families participate in different activities. We love what you're doing with downtown Bradenton, but also don't forget our other communities. I live off of 12th Avenue. Anybody know anything about 12th Avenue? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, we know a lot about 12th Avenue. 12th Avenue, I can say, let me give a shout out to Chief Bevan and the police department. About a year and a half ago, I came here with complaints. It was so bad, you couldn't even drive down there. Kudos, it is so much better. Improvement, thank you that you're hearing us. And the community patrolling, I saw a CRA truck the other day. I was like, okay, we want to see the monies, right? I also want to get with you because one thing that I noticed is I was going in a couple of communities and I see that they're identified with their signs of what their name of their community is. We have no identity in Dove community. I thought about it. I was like, as a matter of fact, I've lived in that community since 2006. And last year found out that the name of it was Dove Community. So can we get some signs in Dove Community? Can we get some things in the park where it's safe? Can we get we want flowers. But before we get those flowers, We got to have the mindset that they're not trampling over the flowers and they're not, we've got to build a sense of community, a sense of this is where I live. First of all, give us our name. Our name is Dove Community, So something that we can come together, and I love the CRA because of the support that you have for your people. Arts, culture, I see that. I've sat in on these meetings. I've sat in on multiple meetings. And I hear you. I hear what you do. I hear events that you sponsor. I hear other organizations that you bring together. And I want to be a part of that. We want to be a part of that Exodus community. We're in an area that's not touched very much. 12th Avenue, we need revitalization. 12th Avenue, we need things in the community. So again, I would like to get with you and get with other people in the community and see what they would like. I know they would like a sign, identify us. Dove Community. When you come in there, whichever way, oh, this is Dove Community. Yes, okay. So we're asking for funding. Like I said, we're asking for $150,000. I had to do different programs to provide different services, and it's not just for youth, it's for the community of all ages. I can show you some of the things that we have done in the past and things that we are continually doing that, can y'all see that?
Yep, there we go.
Painting, bringing culture, bringing art to places or youth that don't necessarily have that opportunity. A lot of times, I'm sorry, I'm gonna slow down, comes a little everywhere. A lot of times, we bring in other organizations, and they come in, and I call it a firework event, where they do it, it's great, and it's done. We don't see anybody for another few months or years. But we have Exodus Community Resources that is here in the community that can be a continual provider of services. This is Game On. That's my grandbaby's here. This is an author, a local author, written a book. She's written a couple of books. But we gave her an opportunity to show that to the community, encouraging the community. That's what Exodus does. We encourage, we educate, and we empower. Here's some more pictures. Some of the youth playing games. Christmas, we have different things go on. We want art, culture. We have a book nook where it's a little library. Where we have a library that you can come and sit and you can read. We are doing a program with the Patterson Foundation, the Summer Reading Challenge. So these are things that as a CRA, you will support. How do we get rid of slum and blight? First of all, change the mindset. As Mr. Wooten says, we want to see it. We want to see it in the community. We see it downtown. We see it in the Village of the Arts. Right across the street is 12th Ave. Village of the Arts is thriving. Cross that street, some of y'all might not want to cross that street because of the way 12th Avenue was, but it's improving. So we need funds to help improve. We need funds to continue to build that community, to build our community, okay? Also, the 14th Street District. I live in the Central, Ward 5, yes, I know, Ward 5 I was trying to think of. But the business Exodus is in the 14th Street. We need to be seen there. We need to have these resources, and we're asking you to help support. All right? Thank you. Also, let me acknowledge Miss Brenda Critchfield from Avenue 941. She was here, but she had to leave. She provides tutoring, discipleship, and mentoring programs, okay? I wanted to make that known. Thank you for your time.
Questions?
Maybe not so much questions, and I know Ms. Crutchfield, well, I knew her as Good Brad at first. She's a wonderful, wonderful person. And she's just like you. She has an interest to build the youth. mindset, you're absolutely right. I grew up in the area where you and I both live, and I've seen the shift, and it's time to shift back to some degree, because, and I find that our area, oh, and back to naming and identifying areas. There was, I think the CCRA years back had something to do with naming the front porch.
Front porch was a different.
Was that different? Okay.
It was a
I wasn't living here at the
different state program.
It was a state program. And then, but Washington Park, I think, got their identification and so forth. And I do recall that it was referred to as Dove, but I've also, on the books at Singletary, that area, I have, for maybe over a year, kind of rolled around the idea of starting different neighborhood associations. Old neighborhoods they don't have the benefit of subdivisions. They're kind of cordoned off and they have their HOAs, but there can be a neighborhood association of some type built in a community. And my neighbors over there as well have also expressed interest in working towards something like that. So we will get together. Don't think it, I haven't been looking at that. Because once you have an area that feels united and feels vested in their area, it does shift the mindset. And you do have the need of businesses such as yours to help create that.
I think it's a sense of belonging.
Exactly.
Actually, I lived in a Village of the Arts years before they actually got it going, and it wasn't. They had to do a lot of changing. It wasn't a great neighborhood before.
Right.
There was a lot going on, but you guys put the money in it. You guys put the time in it. You guys put into building, and look at Village of the Arts now. So let's cross that street. And let's get into our communities.
And that was definitely one of the first things I have stressed about the area. It's kind of referred to as the box. And even staff, we've kind of said, okay, here's box, we got to do something with the box. And you're right, it had been kind of, I won't say, I just have to say the word, maybe ignore it, but not intentionally. But now the emphasis is to look at the box. I'm gonna not just keep going on and on. I'll let the board, because it's more than me up here.
I was wondering, has this gone to the advisory board, the Central CRA Advisory Board?
Oh,
14th.
No, because it's.
Oh, this is 14th Street.
We don't have,
So
Oh.
staff
we
has
don't have
reviewed.
one. We need to build one.
So staff has reviewed, so
Yes.
I guess if you'd like to comment to that.
Okay, so I commend you on your courage and doing everything you do. When we got this, I kind of took a look over our master plan for the 14th Street District and the expenses that you had put in here. Some of the expenses are just operational expenses of the building, electricity and things like that. In my opinion, for that 14th Street master plan, those are not things that are within the master plan that we can fund. The ones that I feel that the board could consider is the events that you had mentioned in here, because in the 14th Street master plan, we did revise that master plan when we did the community policing to add in events to that. So that's basically my recommendation on going through all these costs that that the board could even consider giving funding to. So that's my opinion on
Okay,
that.
so just events, none of the other services, providing the services?
Well, I see signage, we could do signage.
The signage is, I think I had spoken to you in regards to the exterior site enhancement grant that would be available to you in the ownership in regards to, signage or things like that. But as far as that would have to go through that application process.
Okay, well, I would like to get with you and sit down and review that master plan, because whatever that master plan is, all of the details, I will get what we need, because we need to build this
Ma'am.
community. Whatever we need to do, I'm gonna sit with you and we're gonna do it, right? Because I know the board wants to build this community. That's what you do. You do events, you support events, you fund a lot of different things, culture. Those are the things that we're doing. Those are the things that Exodus is doing. So I'm so glad to have your support. Thank you.
I was gonna just mention that I too, I was excited to see, I mean, I've seen you speak in the council and here, so I am
Very involved.
very appreciative of your passion and your dedication. The work is crucial, I 100% agree. This was a great, deeper dive into Exodus and what you all do, and in the meantime, while I was reading it, I came across a couple of other grant-type opportunities outside of the CRA. And I just wanted to encourage you, because our hands are a bit tied with the current plan, but I do want to support whatever we legally can support. And then I wanted to encourage you to also,
CDD.
right, yeah, like to try to do research on, what is it, the CDB? No, CDBG.
CDBG.
Yes, and just recently I was talking to Mr. Moonian about Florida League of Mayors grant, and my understanding, please correct me if I'm speaking out of turn, but to the extent that you discover those grants, but you need participation to then move on in the process of those grants, once you've completed them, then you can come, before either the council or the CRA board to say, I would like your support in trying to obtain this grant. So I think that there's more dollars out there for you, and I just wanted to encourage you to, I think that I don't want to speak for the board, but I think that we're all on the same page, that we would love to see you succeed in your mission.
Yes, we would love to see our citizens succeed, our community, because that's what it is. It's not about me, it's about the community, and it has been neglected. We're seeing money go everywhere else, and like we say, show us the money. We want to see it. We want to see flowers. we want to see our community grow. Anybody else have a comment?
No.
No?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
So Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry.
No.
No.
Sorry, it's been a long meeting. I just, going forward, as I understand, and I want to make sure that I'm clear and that staff is clear, Ms. Morel is going to get with Mr. Moonian, and you're going to go through what the plan states that we can cover. That's what's going to happen now.
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
I will, I'm open to meeting with Ms. Murrell and kind of seeing what we can do as far as what grants we have, and do a deeper dive into the 14th Street to see if there's anything additional in regards to funding.
And I also know that there are additional funding sources from other organizations that, since you'll be meeting with Mr. Moonian, I may put a list together for you and give that information so that you don't have to wait on my schedule. How's that? Okay.
I think we've all talked to him about some different options.
Right. Okay.
Next on the agenda.
All right, next up, we have Manny Lee Rogers. Get the presentation up for.
Good morning. For the record, Kevin Reale, 4400 44th Street in South in St. Petersburg. This is a very short presentation. I believe I asked Mr. Munyon to put in the backup the approvals, and I didn't really think that it would be helpful for the board to go through the approvals, given that they're largely engineering approvals. But we're here today to ask the board to review and confirm the SIP and form-based code approvals for the site so that we can continue with SwiftMud and work towards construction. So the presentation today is all just pictures, and I want to talk through some of the changes. As I understand it, you all have seen some of the elevations before, and so there's not really any significant change to that. It's just that now we have reached the point of having approval. So this is the SIP site plan in color, and you can see sort of the traffic layout, the open space, which is including dry retention, and then there's a wet pond there. This slide here it's a technical slide, but I wanted to stop here for just a moment because of all the delay and all the extensions. The reason for all that is tied into what's shown on this slide here, which in this area here, there's some stormwater vaulting, and then the fire main extension that's going to come underneath the CSX railroad tracks to make sure there's enough water pressure for fire prevention and for a hydrant. So now going into elevations that have been seen before. Actually, I'm sorry, I went too fast on this slide. The other thing too is it's very important to note here, in order to get enough retention on site, the footprint of the building was reduced from 20,000 to 17,000 square feet. That does two things. One, obviously those 3,000 square feet offers space to put retention. And then additionally, then it reduces parking so that that space can be used for retention. So this is the maximum building footprint that can be achieved and still have the three retention areas, and then the underground vaulting covers that gap, and that was the last hurdle to get the SIP approved. These are the elevations. They are largely unchanged from what was reviewed before, and consider the tenants that you all have approved. This is an idea of what the internal layout would be like with the dollar store covering 10,000 square feet, which is something that's been discussed and approved, and then the other tenants shared on the other side of the building. And then McDonald's, we've all seen McDonald's. I'm just including these because they're in the packet, but there are different coloring schemes that McDonald's provides, but of course, this is a newer building. They're newer design standards, but these are very standard to how they set up their buildings, and so the only leeway really is how they do the color scheme. And then the signage, the pylon sign and the monument sign that'll show the tenants. Now the sign is showing McDonald's and then Family Dollar, and then generically shows the other tenants. There's not going to be as many tenants, so you have to consider that it'll be the 4 tenants there instead of the 8 that are shown. But it's just to show the scale of the signs. I think that's the last slide. That is the last slide I have.
Can you point out on this where those signs are?
Yes. So, actually, I don't see it on this one. I'm sorry. Let me look in my better packet here.
Sorry.
No, it's a good question. I thought that it would be on the colored one, but I don't see it there, so I want to confirm. Yeah, okay. Go ahead and
Give your name, please.
give your name and address for the record.
Darren Autry, 914 Tamiami Trail. I'm the architect for the main building. There's a sign here on 13th.
That's sign 1? That's the lower profile one?
The lower
Okay.
profile, and this is the higher profile down here.
Okay.
In case you have any questions. The goal of the presentation today was to keep it simple and hit the high points. The whole packet, if there are other questions, we're happy to do those. So we're not trying to gloss over everything, but it took us a while to get here. So we do want to get the review and approval.
Oh, is that the end of the,
Yeah,
okay.
that's all I had, yeah. So, I mean, I'm more here to point out the high points and point out what changed with the stormwater issues and then answer questions with Darren and myself.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Singer or Mr. Rudisil, is there anything that we have to give approval to today, or is this is just an informational presentation?
No, the lease does require the board to approve all of their plans essentially, and so, you know, they had come previously with a more conceptual plan that was approved by the board, and so now what you're getting is the final engineered design, and that's what they're asking for approval of, and we have city staff here to answer questions as well.
Question I have, Ms. Singer, if you would come forward, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, and I'm sorry, state your name and all the good stuff.
Robin Singer, Planning Community Development Director.
Thank you for coming up. I appreciate this. Is this area within the form-based code?
Yes.
Okay, does this meet form-based code?
Yeah, I think some of the things that have been adjusted over time, we were trying to bring the building up as close to the street, both in the case of the McDonald's and the other accessory structure. This is, you know, because of the drive-through with the McDonald's and the fact that there's a wide easement along First Street or 301, that forced the building back a little bit, so it's not as up into the corner as we had wanted it to be originally. But the other building is up to the street as dictated by the form-based code.
Okay. That was my questions. Thank you. But I wouldn't go anywhere because I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
Go.
Well, I think, Mr. Rudisil, is there, I appreciate that we have to approve it. Is there any other legal consequence, you know, once, does this trigger, this approval, does it trigger any other further action that?
No, it just allows them to proceed with their permitting development.
Okay.
And Ms. Singer, if you can come up one more time. And as this presented, all the stipulations have been addressed, or are there?
I believe so. Mr. McClellan, you're talking, speaking of stipulations for the contract or stipulations under the SIP?
Under the SIP.
I'm gonna turn to Mr. McClellan. I'm not sure offhand. Their office handles the SIP approvals. So there may be stipulations that have to be handled as it goes through the permitting process.
But they have been addressed.
Good morning, Jim McClellan, Director of Public Works. To the best of my knowledge, the only stipulations would be tied to the fact that we are basing the approval upon subsequent approval through SwiftMud associated with the permits for that.
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right. There's a motion to approve the site plan.
As seen. Mm-hmm.
Second.
And it's motion and second. Any comments, any discussion by the board?
It's pretty cut and dry.
All right. No discussion? Take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The ayes have it.
Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. Next on the agenda, disposition of CRA-owned property located at 1021 6th Street Court East, Bradenton, Florida, 34208. Mr. Mignon, do we have representatives here to present?
There is,
I have a comment here.
yeah, we advise that the offerers come and be here for any questions or anything that they would like to speak of. I just wanted to point out that we do have conflict attorney Nance Meyer here in regards to these dispositions. Mr. Russo had let me know that there was a conflict, so we, obtained legal counsel for the conflict. And so she's here, she was given all the information, so she's here to answer any of those questions. So basically on,
Are you able to put up this on Elmo so
Sure.
people can sort of see what we're talking about? Why is it called Elmo?
I know. Why is it called Elmo? Well, if you look at it, it says it on the side of the machine, so I don't think it has anything to do with Sesame Street, but it's not red, it's not furry.
That's what I was wondering.
He doesn't speak in third person.
And it doesn't sing his song.
Don't you start either. Be able to zoom in on that.
Chris, can you zoom? And the CCRA advisory board is the fifth, right? Yeah.
Yes. It's better.
Much.
Wow.
I don't need my glasses
Yeah.
for that.
Way
all
better.
right. So we'll start with 1021 6th Street Court East. So, and I'll talk about the dispositions a little bit. So on June 15th, the board instructed staff to conduct and research the disposition of of 3 properties within the CCRA. On November 16th, the findings were presented to the board, and the board instructed the staff to engage with the CRA attorney on the legal notice to post those properties as per statute. On February 23rd, the board approved the notice to dispose for 2 of the 3 properties. 1 property was pulled off to look at a different use than the residential use at that time. So the posting of the 2 properties was on March 2nd. Per statute, we have 30 days after that posting to be able to engage into contract negotiations. During that time, the CRA received 3 offers on 1021 and 2 offers on 4/13/10. So we'll talk about 1021, the 3 offers in no particular order. This is just how they came to me. 1021 was Habitat for Humanity. The purchase price was $4. We all kind of know what Habitat does. They go in, they purchase the properties, they pretty much gut the properties, rebuild them. They have a list of individuals that have gone through their process and vetted and things like that. They have to do, a certain amount of sweat equity within the build, as you say. And, they also have a portion in their contract because they finance through that. And they have a provision in there that they have the first right of refusal in case that property is sold. That way they can continue to have that house in an affordable type of situation. So that was the first offer. The second offer was from Alma and Katrina Colvin. They want to live in the property and they want to homestead the property as well. Their terms are in there as far as $1,000 deposit, closing and things of that nature. They also asked, at this time, for possible seller financing on the property. And then the third was from J Properties. At the time of the offer, they offered, I believe on this one it was $60,000, and they would absorb all costs for, rebuilding that house. And then at that time, they had said that it would be for affordable rental units. They're here to speak. What we are looking for is basically approval to move forward with negotiating a contract with the entity or individuals. And that's what we're asking for direction for staff to go ahead and start that process.
Can you remind us of what the CCRA Advisory Board thoughts were?
Sure. So in the at the last meeting at the CCRA Board, Advisory Board meeting, they did a ranking of the, what they thought would be the best individual to take over those properties that we would start negotiations with. On this property, 1021 6th Street Court East, their rankings were number 1 was for Alma and Katrina Colvin, and number 2 was Habitat for Humanity, and number 3 was JA Properties. On the 413 property, since there was only 2 offers, one from Habitat and one from JA Properties, that the Habitat had the number 1 position ranking, and JA Properties had the number 2.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Mr. Munyon or Conflict Counsel, and I'm sorry I did not write your name down, and I apologize.
That's okay, Nancy Meyer.
Ms. Myers.
M-E-Y-E-R.
My question is this: with one of the offers, they were looking at seller financing. I'm not sure that a CRA is allowed to do that. I need guidance on that.
That was the first thing I researched when I looked at these myself. I found no prohibition of it legally. What you would have to look at is if it's meets your plan's desires, the policies of your plan, and if it's budgeted for. So obviously, if you have a seller finance situation that's for the next 10 years, you're looking at maintaining that in your budget, allowing for that in your budget for the next.
But if it's not specifically spelled out in our CRA plan,
You have things within the plan, the master plan for this area about home, promoting
Promoting
homeownership
home-
and the homesteading of the homes.
And that is
I think that
incorporated
arguably
in
could be
that.
incorporated in that. There's no specific seller financing option, but I think that could be incorporated into that goal, as long as, again, that there was a budget to provide the money for the time frame for this consideration. That would probably be okay.
Thank you.
Legally, policy-wise, obviously a different conversation.
I appreciate that, Ms. Myers. Thank you. I do remember when we discussed putting these properties up for sale, that we did want to make sure that we were encouraging home ownership and that we weren't necessarily interested in rental properties. We wanted to have people owning the homes and living in the homes. I just share that with the board for historical purposes.
Go ahead.
Is there any,
We sound sort of random.
is there any, has there been any discussion about getting third-party financing for this? If she's able to give, that you're aware of, I mean, if she's able to give 10%, pardon?
Not that I'm aware
For
of.
the record, Ms. Colvin is on the agenda to speak.
To speak? Okay, okay.
All the offerers have had that, that we recommended they come for any questions or anything like that. so.
Okay.
Sorry.
Ms. Meyer, did your research include whether or not we were permitted to do seller financing or whether we had any restrictions under the Dodd-Frank rules?
I did not look under that.
Okay.
That did not come up in my research specifically, and I did not look further. I'm happy to do so.
Okay, I think it's really relevant. That is a set of law regarding lending. I probably Ms. Coker is familiar, regarding seller financing of residential properties. And I meant to give Mr. Munyon a flow chart, and I apologize for not doing it before this meeting, but basically, it's a set of guidelines for when you have to be a loan originator, a licensed loan originator, in order to proceed. And I touch on this a little bit in my private practice, but probably not enough. It's one of those things that I always have to go back and review to see whether I'm falling into it. So I just point that out as something that probably should be addressed because it's a residential property, and I presume we'd be securing it with a mortgage.
Okay.
For now, we're good.
We do have on the list here, Ruby Bird. Did you want to speak on this? Or both, or, whichever you like.
You're a living legend, that's all right.
Yeah, I was afraid that the gentleman there, he like got a big smile on his face. I was like, she's not talking about you.
Oh, he knew.
The first thing I'd like to do, since I haven't had this opportunity to get out of the house in more than 5 years, is to say good morning to the honorable mayor, to all the city council members. Most of you I've known most of your life, and good morning. I think I might be just taking up a little bit of your time, but most of you know me, and I'd like for that legacy to remain, that I have several great interests in my life, and one is my family, my church, and my community. And I wrote this letter to you because I was not aware. My older daughter, deceased, my late daughter, Clovia Russell, worked very strongly with establishing the CRA along with, I can't remember his name, and I was under the impression that this had been done before. And in trying to be a counsel to my granddaughters, I wanted to go on record as having given them some information that wasn't true. I never want anybody to think that I would knowingly break the law or the rules for anything. So I wrote you this letter, and I said thank you for taking the time to consider their proposal. As you may be aware, that these are my granddaughters that was born and raised. And you did a good job in Manatee County, regardless of what anybody say. Born and raised right here in East Bradenton. I encourage them to return to their community and pursue professional work within the public sector. It was my idea to include the interest-only option in their proposal. I was under the impression that it worked as in the old days, real estate, you know. So I estimated what would be the face value of the property in real estate, and it would be that 165. Then I thought, okay, the interest rate would probably be this. So I'm not good at math, but that's what I did. So I told them that we would have to have a cash advance. So the $16,000 they put in there was to be that cash advance, I say to you, is in good faith. So the idea that the mortgage thing was not for them to break the rules, but for me to guide them in the right direction. However, it has come to my attention that this may not be a legal option for these properties. The CCRA did a similar mortgage arrangement that I was made aware of in the early 2000s, and Mary Ann's aware of that. She was very good friends to Chloe, even sang a solo at my daughter's funeral. But anyway, please note that this could be the start of a program, and you can read the rest of the letter, but I just wanted to set the record straight, Brother Mayor, that I did not intentionally do anything that I felt was anything that was wrong. I guided them in the direction I thought was right, and I wanted you to get this letter with my statement as you dealt with them, and know that there's nothing in this world that I would not do for my family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
And my community, too.
Well, take her back first.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that there's anyone that has been here for less than 15 minutes does not fully know or appreciate the contributions of the Bird family.
Absolutely. I fully agree. One of the first councilmen I met when I started, back when we took tours of City Hall, at the old City Hall, was Councilmember.
Oh, wow.
So,
Yeah,
in the first go-round.
He's that
in
old.
the first go-round. Next on the list to speak is Alma Colvin.
I do want to thank you all for taking the time to consider my proposal, and also thank the city, especially my first job was police department, and I was there when you were there.
Yeah.
In the early days, but I thank you. My intentions is to, and my sister, I speak on behalf of my sister who is currently teaching at Manatee School of the Arts. And our intention is to definitely live there permanently homesteaded. We've grown up in the East Bradenton area. Regent Park was where we grew up. But we also, if the seller finances can't work for legal purposes, we do want to be considered for a cash offer, whatever that may be. Cash, 16, go in another direction. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. I'm usually typing, crunching numbers upstairs. But we want to thank you. We want to be considered for another realm of getting this particular property.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Anyone with questions of Ms. Cole?
You did a great job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a wonderful
I was
job.
very nervous the first time I spoke.
Oh, gosh.
It's a great job.
I've had to,
Yeah,
She's nervous and I'm old. What she needs to say to you, she appreciates the opportunity that you would give her to make an offer as to what she can afford, so she and her sister can make a home there at this particular property. That's the whole thing in a nutshell. And we already have 16,000 offered out there. And where do we go from there?
great. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Mignon?
So with that, I also have representative from Habitat. If you have any questions for Habitat and if she would like to speak.
Okay. And in this case, it'll be a chance for you to talk about both, really.
Okay.
so.
Yeah, okay, well, just so you know, I'm here representing Habitat for Humanity, Emily Lane. We gave you the ultimate lowball offer, didn't we? But not really. What Habitat is about is a partnership. We've done 11 homes in the city in recent years, and we'd like to establish a partnership with you longer term than just these 2 homes. What we're talking about is beautifully renovated to high standards, because our concern is that the homeowner have easy maintenance. We don't want to put them in a home that they can't properly care for. We also offer you carefully vetted and trained homeowners. They have honest skin in the game, and by being homeowners, they are immediately connected to the community. They start businesses here, they work here, their kids go to school here. So it's very important. Homeowners, of course, are known to be better as opposed to renters at keeping up the house. They pay taxes and build family wealth, which is something I know that you'd love to see a low-income family be able to do, because they can't buy houses without us. The people that we work with are the 50 to 80% of average median income range. That's low income. I doubt they could qualify for any mortgage, especially since apparently the average house price right now, as of April, is $570,000. That's the latest, which is terrifying. In any case, also homeownership contributes to lower crime, lower teen pregnancy, 19% more likely that kids will graduate high school and even go on to college, which is exceptional, and we all know that education is so important for the community for so many reasons. Got better looking homes, and those have been proven when you have that, to have homeowners nearby and even into other streets nearby look at improving their property. And of course, they bring stability. They bring stability to the community. They're going to raise a family. Future generations will have roots here. You've got a grateful, low-income family that is getting an opportunity to, frankly, achieve the American dream, because that's where it starts in this country, is having a home and being able to build family wealth. Frankly, I think it would be really cool to see some of you handing over keys to families at dedications, and that would be something fun. And of course, again, what we are interested in is not a one-time deal. We're looking at a partnership with the CRA and the city to improve these areas and help you get rid of slum and blight. So I hope you'll look seriously at both of our officers, although I do have to say, loved hearing what you guys had to say, and your family in this community and your history in this community. So If you can't do it this way, maybe you can work with us somehow. Anyway, thank you. Does anybody have any questions about our offer or anything else?
It's pretty,
Okay.
standard what.
I just want to also state for the record, and I forwarded you all an email from Mr. Wooten. Mr. Wooten couldn't stay to speak, but he did.
He had submitted a card to speak.
Okay, so he did send an email, which I forwarded to you, that they would look at changing some, that they wanted to change some verbiage. That was sent to me on the evening of May 23rd, and I forwarded that to you. I responded to him that he would have the opportunity here. So I just want to make that part of the record that was done.
And we have their proposal.
Yeah.
Part of the record as well.
I have a question. With regard to 1021, is the condition of the home, having not been in it, do you think that it could go through an FHA, or is it going to
Good
require
question.
some
I
special
don't-
financing?
I mean, when you go into it, it needs some work.
But I
don't
mean,
know,
is the roof,
but
the roof's going to be?
The roof's going to be older, I can't speak to that until there's, inspections and things like that.
Well-
I wouldn't want to speak to that.
I would like to honor what the advisory board has recommended, but I do think that we'll have to definitely work through all that, because I don't feel like we should be owner financing. But there are people out there that, and I have someone that I can probably possibly put her with, but it's going to take some special financing, so that's all I would say.
So this is to, direct us to do a negotiation of a contract.
Mhm.
So just like, anything else, if we put an offer on the property, that goes to that seller, and then that seller has the opportunity to go ahead and counter that.
And I would actually be, I feel like we could go at a possibly even a little lower price to make it work based on the condition once we, because when you go into a real estate contract, you negotiate once you do the inspection and you find out, okay, we have to put a new roof on before. So, those are things that I would be comfortable with negotiating with, so. In order to get the financing so that we are not seller financing. I think she's right. I think we're going to have an issue with Dodd-Frank upholding paper, so.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
And Ms. Myers, would it be possible, if the board is interested in pursuing what the CCRA Advisory Board has recommended to us, would we be able to make a motion to enter into negotiations with the understanding that the issue that Ms. Moore brought up has to be looked at and addressed? The issues, I've got a pretty darn good real estate agent sitting next to me here saying, you have to negotiate these things. We don't, I think if I saw the home, it was back when we were at Lincoln Village doing the ribbon cutting, and that's been at least a year and a half. I'm not a real estate agent. I don't know the condition of the home. I don't know the condition of the roof. I don't know electrical.
Insurability.
Yeah, all of these things. So all of these things are going to have to be looked at, and just, to me, the possibility of having the recipient secure a different financing source from the city could be a negotiated, or from the CRA. That's just one of those issues to be negotiated.
And I believe that's the goal for today, is to give direction to the CRA for them to do those negotiations with whomever you feel is the most appropriate to move forward with. So it would be, you're not getting, if you say move forward with option one that the advisory council has recommended, doesn't mean that they're getting the house. It means CRA is going to start talking to them, and both sides have options at that point to say, no, I've changed my mind, or no, this isn't going to work out. I think that's a very appropriate statement to make.
Okay.
May I? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you?
No, go. I wasn't
think
sure
that's
which
a great
she was
idea.
talking about.
And just like spitballing on the heels of that, I believe that our state legislature just passed additional, like, I think the Hometown Heroes program expanded, which would apply to your sister if she's an educator. And maybe some of the negotiation could involve our applying for the grants for the exterior to the extent that that would be, I don't know if that's legally permissible, if they can simultaneously, like, try to get the, the facade type grants in order to get to that insurability goal
Again,
finish
I
line.
think that's
I think we
something
can offer
that.
that.
These are just ideas, yeah,
in
just
there.
like, things
Without
that
reviewing the
are.
requirements, they probably need to already own the property to apply for the grants. That's my inkling. That's usually the way it works.
Well, I, with all the discussion, and I'm not an expert in real estate or whatever, but I do know as a board, we are trying our best to honor our advisory board's wishes, and either of the two are really satisfying what we are moving towards, and that's home ownership, increasing the number of homeowners in the area. I understand the third offer kind of threw it in the hat in the 11th hour. However, I feel ready to move or make a motion that staff moves forward, negotiating and working with option one.
Which was
the
Colvin, okay.
Alma and Katrina Colvin.
Alma and, yeah.
On,
Sorry.
on 1021 6th Street, Court East, yes.
Thank you for being specific.
And
Thank you.
I will second that. But I do have just one more point that I think needs to be brought out. Ms. Colvin herself said, she has worked at the city and she currently works at the city, but she does not work for the CRA.
Correct.
And that was looked into. There is no conflict there. She is gainfully employed, and she works
Hard.
her fanny off. I mean, every time I go by there, she is knee-deep in books and numbers, and I'm glad that's your gift. And God has not asked me to do that, and I'm eternally grateful.
I would just say, I think I'd like to see that happen if it's any way possible, so.
And how more beautiful can it be to have a native of the area continue to be a part of the area in the frame of lifting the area?
Well, and just for me personally, when my mother and grandmother bought a house together back in 1969, they were one of the first women to secure a home loan based on their income, not based on a husband or an estate or that sort of thing. So, welcome to the club.
Hopefully.
Amen.
Yes, I know we have to vote on it, but
Yeah, we got
Is
to
that the end of
vote.
discussion?
Yeah, that-
that's the end of my
All
discussion.
right.
Yes, sir.
All right, then we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now the negotiations begin.
Now we have the second property.
Oh, yeah, the second property.
Second property.
So we've kind of talked about it already. So the offers on that second property is Habitat and JIA Properties. So you've heard from Habitat, and so I think, if you're comfortable, you can make the motion on how you see fit. If you have any other questions, me and Ms. Myers is here.
Well, it was the CCRA advisory recommendation that we go with Habitat on this piece.
Yes.
I don't know about the rest of the board. I'm ready to make the motion that staff moves forward in negotiating with probably one of the best programs out there to establish homeownership, and that's with Habitat Human.
Second.
Motion is second. Any
For
further
the 413 10th Avenue East.
And just for the record, I have worked as a volunteer on the Habitat house. The women that at the time were in the code enforcement division of the city got involved with assisting as volunteering at one of the houses. And I learned a very important thing, and that is, don't hand somebody who's OCD to a degree a caulking gun. Because there is an expression in construction which is, ah, hell, we'll caulk it.
Not if it's gotta be.
I don't think they expected me to go through 3 tubes of caulk doing what I was doing.
In less than 30 minutes.
Did we get a second?
Well, that second.
I'm done.
So
Is that a second?
There is a motion and a second.
There's a motion and a second, yeah.
And I'm sure we all will volunteer at that property, maybe not with caulking guns.
Don't give me a hammer.
Give me a nail gun, let me at it.
I am very efficient at painting walls. That's something I'm good at.
Yeah, we can paint.
Okay, let's
So
call the
motion
vote.
second. Any further comment? Hearing none, take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nobody opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, and thank you.
Thank you.
Other discussion, new business, I do have something. I blew it earlier and allowed people to speak outside of what our, the basically agenda dictates. Mr. Rudisil, can you sort of specify where I may have gone awry?
I'm sorry, what,
The-
sorry, Mr. Chairman, what?
He was thinking about.
Okay.
The problem was you said rye and he went to sandwiches.
Yes.
Okay.
What we discussed earlier about public comments.
Oh, right. So, I mean, the city, in the city council meetings, I'm sure you all have noticed, taken the approach of allowing public comment at the beginning, and during that time, you will provide comment on any of the items that are on the agenda that you want to provide comment on, as opposed to having an opportunity at every single item to give additional comments. So that is something that, you know, is a policy decision, that the board could go in the direction that the city council meetings are run, or, you know, continue to run them as they have, so.
Or today, like when we ran off the rails.
Correct.
I'm going to try to avoid that in the future. I would suggest, and I will make a motion, that we adopt the city council policy and adopt the language, just modifying it to read as necessary for the CRA.
Second.
May I ask a question now that we, so I'm still getting procedure down. So would that give, what I've noticed in a couple of our CRA meetings is that people have to leave. So would that give people the opportunity to speak in the beginning if they have limited time, but then another opportunity if they don't? No other opportunity.
So what we're talking about doing would be, they would have their time at the beginning, and they would need to cover whatever agenda items they had that they wanted to speak about. They would cover that during their time at the
Okay.
beginning.
So, like, when Mr. Wooten was here, he wanted to speak on that particular item on the agenda, he would have been able to do so.
At the beginning, right.
So it's 3 minutes for anything possible that you would, okay.
It'd be 3 minutes on one thing on non-agended and 3 minutes on an agenda item.
Okay, that's.
No, 3 minutes total.
Oh, it is.
Well, that's not the way city council's been lately.
Is it
Well,
3 minutes?
I feel like
The,
it-
the policy is, and it was set up after a marathon city council meeting, and when I say marathon, it was 18 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
And there was 2 30-minute breaks. 18-hour meeting. After that, the then seated city council decided to look at the options that other local governments used in their meetings to enable as much public comment as possible. And one of the ways to do that was to stop somebody from filibustering. And it was a 3-minute time limit was put, so that everybody got 3 minutes. And that's pretty much what we have tried to follow in our public meetings. It's to try to, again, allow as much opportunity for people to come forward and speak. It's not to like silence them down or shut them down, but after sitting through literally an 18-hour meeting, and I still have concerns because one of the things that you talk about in government is what is an open meeting. And I think that the majority of people thought that after 5 o'clock, we would probably recess and start the next morning. No, we went until midnight or a little after. So again, it's to provide as many people as possible the opportunity to come and share. So, and what happens at city council meetings is if it is a quasi-judicial land use matter or a quasi-judicial matter, people have to be sworn in, and then people are also given the opportunity to speak on that specific issue. Am I correct, Mr. Rudisil, with?
Right, if it's a public hearing item.
Right.
They would have an opportunity. We don't really have those generally at the CRA, so, but yes, that, they would have another opportunity on a public hearing item to speak. But the general comments about, you know, your action items on the agenda or non-agenda items could be limited to that 3-minute segment at the beginning.
No
And
matter the number of things you want to discuss, I'm sorry.
No.
I wanted just clarification on it. So
Correct.
if you wanted to comment on 3 different items, you only get 3 minutes, a minute to, okay.
When, we could also set up a policy for when we are I don't like the word disposing, but when we are changing ownership or putting items up for sale, that could be something that we would want to encourage public comment on. Meaning, as we did today with the 3 people or the 3 groups that had put proposals forward on the properties that the CRA no longer wished to be the owner of. I don't like the word dispose, let's dispose of those properties. I don't like that. That's why I'm trying to wordsmith this, and Ms. Moore is looking at me like, gosh, she's so funny these days.
Transfer ownership.
Transfer ownership,
Yes.
thank you.
If I may, what I was thinking was, that it's the issue of people having to leave that I was thinking about. And so if we gave them opportunity in the beginning, in case, you know, like if I knew I was.
They had to leave.
Right.
Rather than like Ms. Morel, who sat here and waited.
Right.
She could,
say
forgive me
something
if
in the
I'm not correct, Mr. Rudisil, she could have filled out a card and say, I have time constraints, I would like to say this on the issue that you have coming forward, but she stayed.
Well, she
Yeah,
did.
but
Right,
she was
did
on
a
the agenda.
presentation, and
Yeah, she was on the,
agenda.
yeah.
But I do think that there could be some benefit to if people, like your neighbors, are able to stay for the entire meeting, they may hear something. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
That then maybe their public comment later would be helped by whatever the presentation was or our conversation.
And understand, anyone can email us at any time, and if we've already taken action on an item and new information is brought forward, any person on the prevailing side of that motion can bring it up at the next meeting for reconsideration.
Mr. Chairman, the other thing I was going to say is the board can always take more public comment than is provided for in its policy. So if you get to a particular item that is something that the board wants to hear from the public, they can open it up for additional comments.
Right. So my question is also on presentations. Do we want to look at a time limit on presentations or keep that open or something?
Well, I know that the county has a 15-minute presentation limit on whether you're talking about a transfer of ownership of one house, or if you're talking about a 6,000-acre development. You get 15 minutes. Mr. Rudisil can speak to this because he gets to play in that sandlot occasionally. as far as presentations to the county and how they handle it?
Certainly on land use items, that's their standard. I don't know if they limit, you know, when they actually invite someone to come and make a presentation, I don't know that they limit them, but definitely on land use items, that's the time limit.
We definitely breached a 20-minute mark earlier this morning.
Right. Yep. Well, I would just like to say that in terms of the presentations and stuff, sometimes I'd like to have a guideline, you know, and let's look at the agenda and you can maybe set it up front. But sometimes we need a little bit more time, and, you know, but when it comes to unfortunately, you know, situations arise and you have to keep it limited. And we spend so much time having to counteract some of the false things being said. I really want to keep that 3 minutes limited as much as possible.
Well, and it is possible that we could ask staff to look at putting a policy together where it could be that it is recommended that when someone comes to bring something to us, that 20 minutes is a good guideline. And I say that because being raised in the church that I was raised in, some of y'all go to church for 3 and 4 hours, and and that's a fact. That's a fact. On first Sunday, that's a fact.
First Sunday.
And if I get invited to one of those, I wear a really light hat, because if I wear a hat for 3 hours, I have a headache. But in my church, the minister is instructed that he or she gets 20 minutes to make their point, because we want to make sure that we can beat the Baptists to the restaurant.
Here we go. Okay, back on the rails.
Well, I'm just sharing, that's why I have the 20-minute mark in my head. If he's talking about eternity and can do it in 20 minutes, I think anybody can do a presentation in 20 minutes.
Agreed.
Packing up.
So there is a
Gotta go to
motion
Lee.
and a second, I believe, on the table?
I have one more question.
Yes.
So in the format, then, for the next agenda, we would have, like, number 3 as citizen comments on items on the consent agenda, and number 4 would be citizen comments on items not on the agenda.
Sure. Is that,
I think
No, what we
can-
are saying is they get 3 minutes,
but that's.
whether it's consent agenda item or any other agenda item or anything else they wish to share with us. That's how I understood it.
Right, I mean, that is an option, and that is the way it is worded on the city council agendas now, that the citizen comment portion is for agenda items, non-agenda items, future agenda items, anything of relevance to the city, they have that 3 minutes.
It's only one.
But
Right.
now, that's not the way it's been done recently.
Well, that I can't really speak to, but I can tell you the way it's
Okay.
set up on the agenda.
I just want the consistency is all.
Yeah.
So you could basically
On the
lift the
council.
language
Okay.
that the city clerk has on the
Okay.
city council agenda.
Okay.
So motion is second. Any further discussion to direct staff to make those changes? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Any other discussion or new business?
No.
I move to adjourn.
Motion adjourned. Is there a second?
We need a second.
We
I
are-
think Ms. Moore seconded it.
All right.
Sure.
All in favor? All right.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Remember?